Hey, Lisa. I'm about to stream this. I haven't been on this in forever. Let me know if you can even hear me. I don't know. I haven't been over here forever. People probably won't even know. They'll be like, who the hell is that? Who is that? This case is crazy, though. Let me try something here. That thumbnail is not right. You can hear me great. Okay. I just got to fix the thumbnail because that looks crazy. Just take a second. Let me see. Not going live much really makes you forget a lot of stuff. Let's see here. Add thumbnail. There you go. Hopefully it'll change it in real time, but I don't know if it will. We'll see. All right, it should have changed it. Hopefully, we'll see. All right. I'm going to start playing it. I don't know how many people have even heard of this case. It's going on right now, actually. And it's wild. Let me ask Lisa if you're still here, if you can hear this when I play them. Hold on.
Senseless and horrific acts of violence when all Nikolai had to do was walk away. That's what you're going to see in this case.
Could you hear that? It's low. Okay. I wonder why it's low. Well, his audio isn't great anyway, but I think his audio gets better, but I don't know how much better. Let me make it a little louder if I can from here. Let's try something. Let's see.
You'll see he eventually...
Yeah, see, it's not. I don't know why it would be that low. Oh, because it's on 18? That could be it.
Eventually did walk away, but not until after stabbing 5 people.
Yeah, he doesn't have the best audio, this dude, but he gets better. This case is insane. This man, he's in his 50s, and he was out tubing on the Apple River, and this group of teenagers, he's looking for a phone in the river because his friend lost it, and he runs across all these teenagers as he's looking for the phone, and then it gets into a big fight and somebody ends up getting killed. It's awful. I was just baffled when I was listening to it, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how many people are even watching this, so I just decided to stream it. It's pretty brutal though, what ends up happening. And I guess that's what I'd want to know. Like, what would people do if it was them? Like, what would you do? Because I got to the part of where he's confronted, and it gets crazy. It really actually gets pretty bad. And I don't know what the hell I would do. I really don't. I don't know how I would react. I don't know what I would do. I don't know. Let me see. All right, I'm going to start playing it as people come in. Yeah, it was really scary, Lisa. That's what I thought. Like, how scared would I be if these kids were coming towards me and they're all drunk? Like, how would I have reacted? I don't really know. I really don't know how I personally would have dealt with it. I don't. And I think that's the topic. Like, what would you do if you're out there and maybe you were drinking too or whatever, but all of a sudden you're approached by all of these people? Well, how the hell do you deal with that? I, I don't know. It to me it looks scary as hell, but we're gonna see. Hopefully the sound does get better for sure, but let's just see how it sounds. Hold on.
As Judge Waterman said, my name is Carl Anderson. My co-counsel, Brian Smestad, and I represent the state of Wisconsin in this case. It's our duty to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Nikolai Mew is guilty of all charges. You're going to hear in this trial that Nikolai said it was self-defense. But there's a video of what happened. You're going to see the video. You're going to see the sequence of events. You're going to hear a lot in the video. You're going to hear people yelling at Nikolai over 20 times, some version of get away, go away. You hear the boys, the teenagers yelling, get away from us, get the fuck away, get back, get away from us, walk away, walk away. You're going to hear that there's another group of tubers, adults, who hear this and come over to help the boys. You're going to hear them yelling, go, get your ass and go, get your ass and go, go. You're going to hear that Isaac's group and the group of adult tubers, I'll probably refer to them as the Carlson group throughout the trial, didn't know each other, still don't know each other. You're going to hear from both of those groups testify about what they saw. You're going to hear that there's 6 victims in this case, 1 that was punched, 5 that were stabbed, and you're going to hear from all those victims except Isaac Schumann. That's because on July 30th of 2022, Nikolai Mew killed him. It was the summer before Isaac's senior year of high school. He was living in Stillwater, Minnesota with his mom, stepdad, brother, and stepsister. He was looking forward to going to college after high school. The photo on his left is his last school photo from his junior year of high school. The photo in the middle was his last birthday. He went out to celebrate at a restaurant with his family when he turned 17. The photo on the right, he was showing off the new trailer he bought to his mom for his new car detailing business. On July 30th, 2022, it was a nice day. Weather was in the 80s, perfect sunny day for tubing. You'll see body cam that it was busy. There was a lot of tubers on the river. Isaac was tubing with 5 of his best friends: Alex Vang, Juwan Cockfield, Owen Peliquin, Ryan Nelson, Landon Weiner, and the last photo is Isaac. His friends called him Bike. These are, you'll see, this is how they're dressed when they're on the river. These are screen grabs from that day. The other group you hear a lot about is the Carlson group. The only one who was stabbed out of Isaac's group was Isaac. The rest of the people stabbed and punched were from the Carlson group. Riley Madison was stabbed. Dante Carlson was stabbed. AJ Martin was stabbed. Tony Carlson was stabbed. Madison Cohen was punched. The other group you'll hear a lot about is Nikolai Mew's group. Some of these folks you'll hear more about than others, likely. Ariel, you'll see him in the video of the incident. Yilma, I expect you'll hear testimony from her. Eric Von Williams, you may see in some body cam, hear testimony. Nikolai Mew, that's Sandy Mew, Nikolai's wife at the time. Ernesto, you'll see in the incident video also. So Nikolai and Ernesto worked together. A lot of these other people knew Nikolai through Ernesto, or just met Nikolai that day. Sergio he's the far right. He wasn't actually in this picture, but he was the last member of their group. So all these groups were tubing on the Apple River. They're all out with friends. They're all drinking. This is a map of the Apple River. Tubers started at River's Edge up on the top right, and they kind of tube in this snaky U shape, down and then left and up. A lot of the tubers stop and did stop in this case at the hideaway. There's a bar there, there's a beach spot to hang out. The incident, the stabbings, occurred shortly before the tubers reached the 35 bridge that crosses over the river. You might hear it referred to as the Sunrise Bridge. And then the place where tubers exit is called the Village Park exit. And you'll hear that the only group of these three groups that made it to the exit was Nikolai's group. You'll hear that shortly before the incident, Ariel's phone got knocked in the water. It was in a waterproof case. You'll hear testimony that he wasn't that worried about it. He said he has insurance for his phone, but Nikolai insisted on looking for it. So the group ends up waiting at the sandbar. Nikolai goes downstream. He's got goggles and snorkel. He's going to look for a phone. Isaac's group is tubing a ways downstream. And you'll hear them describe that this older guy is tubing next to their tubes in extremely shallow water, getting really close to them, not really saying anything. He's got we'll describe a strange look in his face. They're creeped out by him. You'll hear from several of them that he said something about looking for little girls. You'll hear from one or two that he said something about looking for a phone. Jawan, second from the left, filmed the main video in this case. He also filmed a 9-second video shortly before that main video. And in that 9-second video, you'll see Jawan saying, he said he's looking for little girls, he's a raper. And Nikolai is walking away. He doesn't keep walking away. At the end of that video, he stops and he turns around. 2 seconds later is when that main video starts. The video of the stabbings. You'll see at that start of the main video, Nikolai is walking towards the group of tubers. They're down in their tubes, the teenage boys, Isaac's group. In the beginning, when Nikolai's walking towards him, he's got his hand down on a pocket at the right of his shorts. You'll hear from people from his group that that's where he kept his knife. You'll see in the video that he then starts to run. He runs at the boys who are down in their tubes. That's the only time in this video you'll see Nikolai run, when he runs up on the group of teenage boys. He doesn't even run after stabbing 5 people. He walks away. There's his hand on that pocket. He's carrying his snorkel and goggles. That group in the background there, in the middle photo, that's the Carlson's group. He'll eventually come over in response to the yells of the kids. Nikolai puts his goggles in his mouth and grabs onto their tubes with 2 hands. You'll hear in the video the boys are yelling, "Whoa, whoa, what's this guy doing, weirdo?" You can see their reactions in the video. That's how it's being on the left. Nikolai drops his goggles and snorkel in the water. He then starts reaching in the water where they fall into the water. He starts walking around their tubes. They're yelling at him, get away from us, walk away." They're also chirping at him. You'll hear Jawan saying, "He's a pedophile." Nikolai says something back. You can't hear it in the video. He's standing, now this is facing downriver. So the direction they're tubing, that's that bridge going over the river in the background. Boys are yelling, "Get away." That's Isaac in the middle photo with the white hat, purple trunks. That's Isaac again in the left photo, standing with his hands up, fingers splayed. You see a gold bracelet on his left wrist. You see that again later in the video. At this point in the video, you hear the boys start to cheer. And that's because you'll hear from them that the Carlsons, some adults, were coming over to help. Those 2 people you see walking over are Madison and Dante. Madison's later punched, Dante's later stabbed. There's Isaac's bracelet. As Madison is walking over, she's yelling, "Go, go, go." Nikolai says, you'll hear it in the video, "They took my snorkel." Madison's pointing and yelling for him to go. You can see in that pocket on his shorts, metallic clip, his pocket knife. Madison's pointing and yelling at him to go. Nikolai turns his back to her, looks back at the group of boys in the right photo. She drags him back away from the boys, back to her. We hear from her that's why she went over there in the first place, was to try to get him away from the boys. She keeps telling him to go. He starts smiling. He waves upstream towards his group. More women from the Carlson group come over. That's Riley in the middle, in that middle photo. She ends up getting stabbed. Right photo, you can see Nikolai puts his hand on that knife in his pocket again. He's smiling. The boys are laughing. They're drunk 17-year-old boys. They have nothing in their hands, as you'll see in the video. They're laughing and pointing at Nikolai. He's smiling. Then you'll see his hands start moving. You can't quite see what they're doing. You can see they come together in front of his waist. You can see behind him, there's nothing but clear and empty water. As Madison and Riley, two women, are talking to him, telling him to leave, he takes out his knife. He opens it, blade up, still smirking, looking straight at the women. You'll not see Nikolai raise his knife and brandish it. You'll not hear him yell at anyone to get back. You'll not see him say anything at this point in the video after he takes his knife out. You'll not see him try to take a step back or walk away. You will see him looking around, smirking, while continuing to hold the knife down by his side. While holding the knife, he looks around, looks back over at the boys. You can see Riley leaning over, trying to keep his attention. Nothing but clear water behind him. You'll see Madison's got sunglasses on. Some more people from the Carlson group come over. That's AJ in the yellow swim trunks. He gets ultimately stabbed, you'll see. That's Dante in the right photo. He gets stabbed. This entire video is 3 minutes and 23 seconds long. It's not a very long video, but from the point in the video when witnesses say Nikolai punched Madison until you see Nikolai walking off after having stabbed 5 people is only about 20 to 25 seconds. It happens very fast in the video. You'll see that when you see it played in real time. You'll see the boys are loud, they're boisterous. You'll hear that in the video. There's a lot of yelling. Pedophile is looking for little girls. Go, get away from us. You'll not hear anyone in the video threaten Nikolai. You'll not see anyone raising fist to him before it turns physical. You won't see anyone besides Nikolai with a weapon. You won't see the boys touch Nikolai until after stabbings start. The next portions of the still frames is moments before the witnesses say it turned physical when Nikolai punched Madison in the face, who was one of the women standing in front of him. The Carlsons say he punched Madison. The boys, the teenagers, say he punched the blonde girl. They didn't know her name, they didn't know each other. It happens fast. Remember, up to this point, Nikolai already has the knife in his hand. After it pans, from the last frames I showed you, AJ was walking over in the yellow swim trunks. The video pans back to the middle. You see Madison and Riley are standing in front of Nikolai. The video pans to the left. You see the boys still laughing. That's Isaac in the background of the middle photo. He's pretty much just standing there in the background. Then you see everybody react, and you hear it. You hear the change in the tone. And this is when witnesses say Nikolai punched Madison in the face. You hear Madison testify, and Nikolai punched her in the face. Madison's sunglasses are no longer on her head. You're testifying that they got knocked off when he hit her. After Nikolai punches Madison, Dante, her friend, punches Nikolai. can see that in the right frame. Again, Madison's sunglasses, no longer there. Nikolai goes down in the water. You can see in the right photo, he gets slapped. Shallow water, his butt's in the water essentially. That's AJ in those photos pushing on Nikolai's back. You'll see that the push doesn't really do anything. Nikolai gets right up with the knife in his right hand, lunges at AJ as AJ is going to push him again. As AJ is pushing Nikolai, Nikolai stabs into his lower abdomen with the blade up, and slices out his stomach. You can see in that right photo, he just missed his throat, chin. In the middle photo, you can see AJ's stomach opened up on the bottom, right above his slim trunks. From the push from AJ, Nikolai goes down, lands in his butt in the water again. You won't see anyone in the video pounce on him at this point or approach him, try to hit him when he's down in the water. You see him try to grab at Tony. That's Tony. You'll hear that's Tony in the jean shorts. Tony walks by him. Tony has his back to Nikolai. And you'll hear Tony yelling in the video, "Get back, get back." You hear testimony from Tony that he thought he was breaking up a fist fight. So he's yelling at somebody off screen to get back. He has his back to Nikolai. Nikolai gets up still with the knife in his hand. That person in the top left of the left photo is Riley. So after Tony, you hear him yelling, directing somebody off screen to get back. He turns to Nikolai and he's yelling, "Get back, get back." And you see him pointing in the video and yelling. And you see Nikolai's hand going back with the knife in it. He makes a stabbing motion off screen. Tony's yelling at him, "Get back." And then you see Riley's just been stabbed. That group in the background there that Nikolai's facing with nobody between him and that group is his group. That's his group of tubers. Tony, you'll see, you hear from him when he testifies that he's just yelling at Nikolai to go. Nikolai doesn't. Again, that's his group. In the right photo, the guy with the aviators, that's his friend Ariel, almost up to Nikolai. Nikolai doesn't walk back to his group. Instead, he turns to Tony with the knife in his right hand. He stabs at him twice. You can see Riley bleeding in the background. Ariel, Nikolai's friend, is there as he's lunging the knife at Tony. That hand there on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see more clearly in the next still shots. Isaac goes to shove Nikolai. See the gold bracelet? As he's shoving Nikolai, Nikolai lunges out with the knife. Nikolai kind of stumbles back from the push, comes back with his knife covered in blood and dripping blood. You can see the women recoiling from him. Nikolai ends up by his friend Ariel as he's stumbling from the push. You don't see Dante get stabbed in the video, but I expect you'll see evidence and testimony that it was after this. It's not until this point in the video, after he stabbed AJ, Riley, Tony, and Isaac, that you hear people start react and realize what's going on in the video. You hear that they all suddenly saw AJ, and you'll see in a second what they saw. Up until that point, people didn't realize that Nikolai was stabbing people. You'll hear in the video the shock and disbelief as what just happened. The camera pans around, you see Nikolai looking in the direction to where AJ and Isaac are. AJ is in the water, moving in his guts. Isaac's friends scatter and run. Juan, who's filming, runs back. Nikolai walks away. You can see at this point, if you recall the photo of Dante, he's got dark chunks on the bottom, light on top. He's got his hands on his torso and he's looking down. Nikolai continues to walk away. He walks by his friend Ariel. On that right photo, he's standing in front of Ernesto. He walks by Ernesto. On the right there, that's Alex Vang running to Isaac, who is collapsed in the water. You see AJ struggling. That's Nikolai by Ernesto. Nikolai continues walking. The camera pans away, when it pans back, Nikolai's off in the distance. Pans down a little bit, and that's what the middle photo is showing. And then you see in the left photo, you see he's approaching the right shore. Camera pans down, pans back up, and he's walking away from the right shore. Isaac's group and the Carlson's group start helping each other, try to get to shore, get the victims to shore. Isaac and AJ, who are collapsed. Nikolai starts walking back from the right, over across to where his group is at the sandbar. Camera pans around the water. Water's running red. It's Isaac's hat floating by. Nikolai is almost back to his group. You can see people trying to help AJ and Isaac. You see a couple people from the Carlson's group start to call 911. We hear from 4 people that were stabbed, and none of them saw Nikolai with a knife. They didn't notice he had a knife. They didn't know. They thought they were punched until they looked down and see all the blood. There's not going to be any testimony on what Isaac saw. If he saw Tony get stabbed right in front of him when he went to shove Nikolai, because Isaac's not going to be here to tell what he saw. You hear that some Good Samaritans who were also tubing, some nurses, tended to AJ and Isaac until law enforcement and paramedics arrived. AJ, as a result, was disemboweled. He had to have emergency surgery. He was in the hospital for nearly a month and had to have numerous follow-up surgeries. Riley, who was in the bikini in the middle photo, was stabbed in the side and sliced her diaphragm. She had to have emergency surgery. Tony was stabbed twice. One, he'll describe how he kind of blocked it. He thought it was a punch coming in, so it just kind of scratched him. The other one went into his torso. Isaac was stabbed in the chest and the torso, cut clean through 2 ribs, and sliced his heart. Died almost immediately. He was 17 years old. Dante was also stabbed in the torso. Nikolai returned to his group. You'll hear from people in his own group. He didn't really say what happened. He said, they took my knife. They stayed at the sandbar for a while, until a little while, sometime after law enforcement arrived. Multiple members of his group called 911. He did not. They reported they didn't know what happened, but multiple people were injured. One person from their group, Eric Von Williams, went over to help with the wounded. He also spoke with law enforcement when they got to the scene. He's the only one who did. At some point, Nikolai tells his group that they should just float to the exit. So they floated to the exit. You'll see that when law enforcement arrived on the scene, it was chaotic. Information they had was that an unknown subject stabbed 5 people. People didn't know where he was. They're all looking at AJ and Isaac and trying to help each other to shore. Nobody paid attention to where the guy with the knife went. There's dozens of tubers that continue to go through. There's tubers running through the woods trying to find the guy who was stabbing people. Isaac and AJ, there was no place to get to them by road. Officers had to go to the nearest. They went to the 35 bridge, and then they had to wade upstream to get to them, float them out on tubes. You'll see that when officers get there, there's bystanders, just other tubers intermixed with victims, intermixed with witnesses. Some of the witnesses were so emotional they couldn't even articulate what happened at first. So Juwan, who filmed the video, he alerts law enforcement that he's got a video of it. And he pauses it at an image of Nikolai from the video. And that deputy circulates it around to other law enforcement who are responding. Officers go down to the exit. One deputy walks right by Nikolai and his group because he's looking for somebody who matches that photo. The reports all that they had where he was by himself. Deputy walks right by Nikolai, but then 2 citizens, one employee of River's Edge who had the photo, and a friend of the owner of River's Edge, alerted law enforcement They think this guy matches the photo. Nikolai is apprehended. Members of the group asked, why is he being detained? You got the wrong guy. This is how he was dressed when the law enforcement made contact with him. You'll see the body cam, Nikolai doesn't really show any emotion. He's taken into custody. You'll see a video of Sheriff Knudsen. Nikolai is in the back of a squad car. Sheriff Knudsen goes to check on him. How are you doing? You doing all right? Nikolai says, what's going on? I hear somebody got stabbed. And I fit the description. Nikolai is later told by officers that he's under arrest for homicide and attempted homicide. Ultimately, Nikolai is interviewed by Lieutenant Randy Hart. In that video, you'll see the recording of that interview. His version varies drastically from the video of the incident. The interview is about 45 minutes long. You'll get to see that video, but I'll highlight some portions of it. When Nikolai is interviewed, he's not told there's a video. Lieutenant Hart shows him a screenshot, that one that went around to law enforcement. She asks if he knew that they took his picture. He says, no, he didn't know that. And then he asks if she has any other pictures of him. What other pictures did they give you? So up to this point, Nikolai told his group they should leave the scene of stabbing, put on the jacket, hat, and sunglasses, tried to walk by law enforcement at the exit. He said to Sheriff Knudsen, I heard somebody got stabbed. He was told he was under arrest for homicide and attempted homicide. So you'll see in the video, Lieutenant Hart is explaining he doesn't need to speak with her. Nikolai responds, or I can say it was self-defense. Self-defense. There's lots of people that came to me, self-defense, and they produced 2 weapons when I took from them. And that's the only thing I tell you. They hit me, they were on top of me. I don't remember anything after that. I just remember I ran away. You'll see that Nikolai repeats over and over throughout the interview that they pulled knives on him. Because of that, he feared for his life. He also repeatedly says they knocked his goggles off his face. He says they're trying to pull his swim trunks down. And they snorkeling, so they took my snorkel away. They threw it in the water. They grabbed my pants. One wanted to pull my pants down, and I grabbed onto them. And I don't know who that kid was, but he had a knife on him, and there was another knife, a longer knife, looked like a kitchen knife. They came, they grabbed my snorkel, and they threw it in the water. Those goggles are lost. They took them, they grabbed them off my face, and threw them in the water. Not only does Nikolai say repeatedly throughout the interview that they pulled knives on him, he says he did not have a knife. I feared for my life. There was the truth. And they started hitting me, pointing a knife at me, and another kid pointed a knife. I thought that was it for me. So actually, I took it from one of the young kids, and I think that's when I swung back. When you watch the video, the only thing you'll see in other people's hands in that video are drinks, cell phones, and a vape pen. You'll hear testimony from both Isaac's group and the Carlson's group that none of them had knives. Nikolai again, one had it in his hand, so I took his hand and I bent it. I poked him with his own hand, and I took him from his hand, and then I swung. So I don't know who I hit. I just know that I took the knife from one of those kids. Lieutenant Hart asks, did you have a knife with you? No, absolutely no. Nikolai says he's telling the truth, that he does not know where his knife was. He says he had one earlier to cut the string for the tubes right at the beginning. I left it on I don't even know what I did with it. I either gave it to one of the people or I put it in my truck. To tell you the truth, I don't even know. I don't even know where it's at, to tell you the truth. Maybe one of the bags we had with us, it may have been in, I don't know, maybe I left it, put it back in the car. He says everything happened fast. He doesn't know why they attacked him. I don't even know why they took my snorkel. I don't know why they wanted to pull my pants down. I don't know why they're being so mean. Why did they want to scare me with a knife? They're scaring people on the river. It's a family-oriented river with knives, and what they did, I just grabbed the kid's knife. I didn't even know I was holding it right. I grabbed it from him because he tried to poke me with it, so I feared for my life. He says it over and over. They're pushing me, shoving me. I tripped. I fell down. I got up, and that's where I saw one of the kids there, closest kid with the knife, and I grabbed it from him. Again, you'll hear he was already told he was under arrest for homicide. Nikolai asked Lieutenant Hart, so what happened? Can you tell me what happened? Lieutenant Hart says, yes, 4 people went to the hospital with injuries. Nikolai says, oh my God. Lieutenant Hart says, and 1 person died. Nikolai says, oh no. Lieutenant Hart says, I don't know their names or their genders, I don't know. And Nikolai asks, is that because they fought each other? Again, you'll see this in the video of Nikolai walking off to the right shore before walking back to his group. You'll hear from Gilma Constanza, who was one of the tubers in his group, that as he walked back after the incident, he did not walk back directly to the group. He walked over to the shore across from them and threw something onto the bank. This is you'll hear from Chuck Coleman from the sheriff's office. It's a 3D rendering. This is a bird's eye view of it. These are approximate locations you'll hear on where things happened. The river in this image is flowing downstream or down to the bottom. So the bridge would be below this image. The white dot is approximately where the boys were when Nikolai first made contact with them. They continue to drip down a little bit. The Carlson's group is that pink dot. They also continue to flow down. So at the time of the incident, they're more kind of parallel with Isaac's group. And then orange dot is the sandbar that you'll see in the video where you hear that the Nikolai's group was. That star, you'll hear that's where law enforcement found the knife. This is that knife that was found on the shore. You'll hear that this knife was sent to Wisconsin State Crime Lab, tested positive for blood. It was compared to DNA samples of the 5 people that were stabbed. It had DNA, Dante, and Isaac on it. By close of trial, you'll see that these were senseless and horrific acts of violence, and all Nikolai had to do was walk away. At the close of trial, the state will ask you to find Nikolai guilty of first-degree intentional homicide of Isaac Schumann, attempted first-degree intentional homicide of Ryan Madison, A.J. Martin, Dante Carlson, and Tony Carlson, battery of Madison Cohen. Thank you.
13 drunk, angry strangers.
Here is your defense opening statement in the St. Croix County Courthouse in Hudson.
Nick Mew standing in the river with 13 strangers. 13 drunk, angry strangers. 13 against 1. They yelled and they screamed in order to attract a crowd. They got a crowd. They told lies to make the crowd angry. He's looking for little girls. He's looking for little girls. They layered their lies. They made them louder to make the crowd more angry. He's a predator. He's a predator. They chanted. They pulled on him. They closed the space around him. They got up in his face and they pushed him. Somebody else pushed him. And they pointed and they pushed and they pushed and they pushed. And when he put up his left hand, to block and protect himself as they're in his space, in his face, he puts up his left hand to protect himself. And then they got violent. They got violent. They knocked a grown man, punched him, knocked him into the water. And when he's down in the water, they come up on him and they hit him again when he's down in the water. When he tries to get up out of the water, they attack him from the front, smack him across the front of the face, while somebody else comes from behind and starts pushing him down. In that moment, he feared for his life. And he responded in self-defense. Let me show you what they did. Dante Carlson, who had earlier come over into that group, right? His dad had sent him over to help Nick. But the crowd got Dante going, and it didn't matter. He was going to hit him. And when the opportunity arose, as Dante Carlson will tell you, he laid him out. Knocks a grown man back off of his feet, where it's not just his butt. You'll see on the video, it's his shoulder, it's his head. He goes into the water. He didn't have a measuring stick. He wasn't figuring out what the height of the water is. He went in the water because they hit him into the water. And when he's down, you'll see he's down in the water. And Dante Carlson, who punched him with his right hand, right? He was so confident. He was so confident. Had his beer in his left hand. And then he's given a beat down with his right hand. He then runs around him as Nick is falling into the water. And he's in the water. He runs around him with the beer in his hand because he knows he's got his group around him. And then he comes around and he smacks him again. You can see in the first photo, you can see the shadow of Dante's arm coming across. And you can see it hits him across the face and across the ear. That's not just a slap. That's a full hand. You'll watch the video. It knocks him down. And then when he's down in the water, you'll see A.J. Carlson, who you'll hear tells you that he came over there to mediate. But for whatever reason, maybe it's because of a crowd, maybe it's because of a mob, maybe it's some other mentality. But when this happens, he sees this old man down on the ground. He doesn't go to help him. He goes to push him from behind. And while he's pushing him from behind, look in the upper corner there. That's Dante's arm. You can see in the middle slide, that's Dante's hand smacking Mew across the front of his head. And then you'll see on the third slide, that's where he's extending through. So confident he's going to beat this old man down that he keeps the drink in his hand. That's the close-up that you can see through there. Dante Carlson hitting Nick Mew in the face while his friend attacks him from behind. You're going to need to make some choices in this case, right? Make some decisions. Some of the things that might help you to do. Let me just take a step back, all right? Who is Nick Mew? Who's the man that they wanted to beat down on the river? We're going to tell you about that. How did he get there? What made him be in the river on that day, as we saw here earlier? We'll tell you that story. And then lastly, why did this angry mob, this pack of players, why did they attack him? And we're going to tell you that. First, who is Nick, right? Nick's 54 years old, lives in Prior Lake. He's married, right? See a photo of, you'll hear from his wife, Sandy, right? She's going to be a witness. She was there with him that day. Him and a bunch of other 50-year-olds went to go have a peaceful day on the river, right? Nick grew up in Romania, right? And when he was about 15 or 16, he immigrated over here. We're not going to get really into it. Romania was not a good place to be in the 80s. Communist dictator, all kinds of other bad stuff was going on. And Nick's dad, like a lot of people in the world, wanted to have a better place for his family to grow up. So they, as political refugees, were accepted by a church in Minnesota, and they came over to Minnesota. When Nick was growing up, his first language was Romanian. Because he lived in this communist dictatorship, he also needed to learn Russian. Because he was in Europe, he also learned to speak French. Because he's a pretty smart guy, he also learned Latin. So when he was 15 and 16, he comes over to the United States, and then he picks up English as his fifth language. He can speak fluent English. He's fine. But I think it's important for you to know that's not his first language. When he graduates from high school in Minnesota, he decides he wants to go on and further his education, and he goes to school in South Dakota. He becomes a mechanical engineer, and he's worked as a mechanical engineer for years and years. Bit of a handyman, as I imagine a lot of engineers are, right? I don't think of myself as a handyman. He's a handyman, good with tools, hangs out with tools, and you'll hear from other people how he's used tools in the past. And you'll hear, as you'll hear on the tape, as he tells the police, living a peaceful, quiet life in Minnesota, never been in trouble before. Him and some of his work friends, as all of us sometimes as adults, our circle of friends tends to be people that we work with. He has a group of friends, Amanda and Ernesto. They've been down the Apple River before. In fact, they've invited him before, and he's been down the river one time before, several years earlier. So they make a plan with all of the group of people that we saw, right? Oh, I forgot one thing here. Nick, like a lot of people, maybe as they get older, isn't of the best health. In 2020, he had a heart attack. And he needed to have quadruple bypass open heart surgery. So these are the photos of him recovering from that. And it took him some time. And he'll tell you how that still makes him feel fragile, right? He doesn't feel as fit as he was when he was 18 or 22. So he decides to get out on the river with his friends. These are some of the friends. And as you'll see in photos, right? He's in the water that day. It's warm that day. Sometimes he's wearing his sunglasses. Sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's got a hat on. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he has his shirt on. Sometimes he doesn't. This is the photo of the start, which is pretty much the exact same thing he was wearing at the end. His friends Amanda and Ernesto asked him to come along. There's a lot of other adults that are coming, right? There's no 20-somethings, no teenagers. They pack food in coolers. Sure, they have a couple of beers, but it's really just a time to get together with their other adults and float peacefully down the river. Nick likes to snorkel, right? So he brought his goggles and his snorkel, right? That's just kind of who Nick is. He's a bit of an explorer, a bit of a curious mind, and he brought his goggles and snorkel. And you'll see a video of him prior to this where he's just kind of laying in the water, letting the water rush over him. He kind of floats there with the goggles and the snorkel, and he's looking at the bottom of the water. Probably not a lot of exciting things at the bottom of the water in Apple River, but he was there to see it if there was something there. Before he leaves, he gets a call from his friend Ernesto, because Ernesto knows Nick and knows that Nick's a bit of a handyman, and is like, hey, remember last time we had all those strings? We got all those strings. You got to cut up stuff. You got to do this. Can you bring that little pocket knife that you've got, that utility knife? I've seen you use it at my house. We used it as a tool. Make sure you bring that because we need to cut up some of the strings. So he does. Gets back, packs that up, brings it along. And sure enough, when they get there, they have their provided strings. And then people you'll see, they tie up tubes, they tie up coolers, they tie up everything else. And he uses his pocket knife to sometimes cut those up, right? You'll also see as he's going through on the river that day that his shoes kind of fall apart, right? And you'll see that pictures of his shoes, he's got strings and he's tied them up and he continues to cut with the little pocket knife that he has to make sure that his shoes, footwear, are something that he can have. So they float down the river, right? This is the group. You saw that photo already with Mr. Anderson showed that to them, right? And again, here he has the hat on. Here he's got the hat off. You'll see later, not surprisingly, when he goes to snorkel, he doesn't have his sunglasses on. And sometimes when he snorkeled, he had a shirt on. Other times he took it off. Here's another picture of him on the river with the group. Again, has the hat back on, depending upon what the sun is like. So, how did he get there, right? Well, as we talked about, Ariel, his friend, loses his phone, right? And whether they wanted to look for it or didn't want to look for it, I don't know how that's relevant. I don't know how his wanting to go help his friend look for his phone is any way important. You'll get to decide that. But we know at the end of the day is it's uncontested. His friend lost his phone. And as you saw in some of those photos, they have these little bags that they put him on, and they didn't know if it was going to float or if it was going to sink. But the water between him and the other two groups was downstream. So if something went into the water, it would float towards where those other two groups were. So Nick used his head and walked where he thought the phone was going to float to, and he goes looking for it, right? And then while he's looking for it, he runs into another group, right? And this is the group that we're going to talk about, two different groups, right? The first group he runs into is this group of high school, right? And you're going to hear that they're drunk. You're going to hear that they were smoking stuff. The one piece of evidence that we know for sure is that at the time of the autopsy, Isaac Schumann's blood alcohol concentration was 0.219. And if you ask his friends are going to say he was the most sober one in the group. So we have this group, they're drunk, they're loud, there's 6 of them, they're football players, they've run as a pack together before. You're going to hear some videos, they're quite confident group, right? And they see this man that maybe others are going to judge upon his appearance this group of 6 see him and they start making judgments about him based upon what he looks like. He's an old man in the river with goggles, and they don't like it. So they start calling him names. Right? And there's a video, you're going to hear it, because they start harassing him. They start heckling him. They're basically trying to humiliate him. That's what they're doing. And Mr. Cockfield, one of the football players, he grabs his phone out, and he thinks it's funny enough that he's going to record it. And you'll see that recording just before this, where he says, "Grown man looking for little girls." And he thinks it's really funny. And then he screams out, "Raper!" He doesn't scream that out for his benefit of his 5 football friends that are with him. He screams it out to draw a crowd, get other people involved. Now, Mr. Mew may or may not have heard that exact thing, but he hears them yelling, and he turns around, and what does he see? He's looking for a phone, right? We know that. And when he turns around, he sees somebody holding up a phone. Maybe he's wrong, maybe he's mistaken about why they're holding up the phone, but he sees them holding up a phone, so he turns around to approach them because he thinks that's the phone he's looking for. I'm looking for this phone. It floated down this way. These kids are yelling. And he starts jogging towards them. As you saw, as he jogs toward them, he's an unfit 260-pound man trying to move through the water, and he picks up his feet for about 4 steps. And then he reaches his hands out to grab their tubes, and when he does so, he puts the snorkel and the goggles in his mouth. Maybe they thought it was an act of aggression. I don't really think it was. You'll get to see it and watch it. But we know nothing happens after that. Because as soon as he goes and approaches, the goggles and the snorkel drop. He loses them, and he immediately starts looking for them. That's about 5 seconds into the video. He starts looking for them, and they start yelling at him, "Get away, get away, get away." So this is the tubes, right? You as the jury, you're looking downstream this way, right? Nick is standing here in front of the tubes. He looks, he comes up, and then he walks to the other side of their tubes, and he's now on this side of their tubes, downstream from them. He's downstream because that's where he thinks the goggles and the snorkels come. And did he tell the police officer that he thought they knocked the goggles and snorkels out of his hand? Yes, he did. Is that what he believed happened? Yes, it was. Is that what really happened? No, that's not what happened. And the great thing you're going to be able to see in this case is there's a video. There's a video that we can check everybody's testimony against. And you know what? Riley Madison got it wrong. Dante Carlson got it wrong. Madison Cohen got it wrong. Anthony Carlson got it wrong. Pretty much every witness, when you compare their human memory against the video, they got it wrong. Because we're humans. We can't get it as good as the video does. So he got that wrong, but he's still nevertheless looking for his goggles. His goggles are down in the water. He's looking for it, right? He starts walking around there. There's nothing that prevents this group of football players who are screaming at him from just walking around. He's one man, maybe 2 feet wide. And you hear from there, they talk about him walking away, but they can just walk, just float on by and leave this man alone. But they stay to harass, they stay to heckle, they stay to humiliate. Because he starts walking away from them. And if you watch and you count, you watch it enough times, he takes about 10 steps away from them. And it's sometime during those 10 steps, when that group says, "You got 10 seconds. 10 seconds. That's what this group of drunk teenagers says to that old man. And he's walking away at that point. And then what you'll see when the video comes back, he walked away. They followed. They didn't go around. They went right up to him where he had walked away. Now remember, as he's walking in this direction, his group is 200 and some feet that way, 280 feet that way. This water is deeper. As he starts walking away, he gets into deeper water. He doesn't have his goggles, doesn't have his snorkel, still can't find the phone. He's getting farther away from this group. The drunken teenagers are yelling at him. And now they keep following. Now, this video, all right, we're going to show some slides from the video. And it's super important, obviously. We're very thankful that we have it so that you will know exactly what happened. But what you got to remember is the video was taken by Juwan Cockfield. It is from Juwan Cockfield's perspective. It's from his point of view, right? Makes it obvious. And so the person that we're watching oftentimes is Nick Mew, right? But you need to know, which is obvious, that the video is not from Nick's perspective. We're not watching it from Nick's perspective. We're watching it from somebody else's perspective. And why is that important? Because the judge is going to tell you, right? It's important because at the end of the case, you'll need to determine the reasonableness of his beliefs from his point of view. You'll need to determine the reasonableness of his beliefs, not actions, You're here to determine his beliefs and reasonableness from his point of view. So as you're watching that video, you're going to be asked at the end to be like, what would someone in Mew's position, from that standpoint, what would they feel? What would they believe? Let me just quickly read to this, right? If I can, the law of self-defense. In determining reasonableness, a belief may be reasonable even though mistaken. In determining whether Nick Mew's beliefs were reasonable, the standard is what a person of ordinary intelligence and prudence would have believed in Nick's position under the circumstances that existed at the time of the alleged offense. Not 30 seconds before, not a minute before, at the time of the alleged offense. The reasonableness of Nick's beliefs must be determined from the standpoint of Nick Mew at the time of his acts, not from the viewpoint of the jury now. So I say that to you just so you know when we're looking at the evidence, what you're going to be asked to do at the end. So they get him into this position, and this is 50 seconds into the video. He's walked 10 steps away. They come up to him and approach him and cut him off. So he walks away one time, they follow him. But Nick, right, sees, right, so he's here. He's got a group of people here, and he looks off to his left, and he sees a group of adults. There's 2 adults coming this way. Great, adults, not drunk teenagers. Adults are coming this way. He doesn't continue to engage with this. He gets and starts walking over here. He walks over to engage with the adults in the hope, as I think most of us do when we see perhaps another adult and we're dealing with a group of drunk teenagers, maybe I can appeal to reason. These are adults. And when he walks over this way and the path down the river is wide open, those drunk teenagers follow him. Follow him over here, where he then gets confronted by Madison Cohen. And Madison Cohen is not listening. She's not there for an appeal to reason. Her immediate words are to Nick Mew in his face, go, get the fuck out, go. And you'll see Nick's reaction is kind of like, as you heard from the, look, they have my goggles, like, why are you in my face? What's going on? And you can see, they'll call it a smirk. They'll call it a smile. Look, there's 4,819 frames in that video. 4,819 frames. I have no doubt that you can pause on one of those 4,819 frames and find a photo where somebody's mouth is making a particular shape of anything at any time. Is he smirking? Is he smiling? You watch. You decide. Because he looks perplexed. He's immediately confronted, and he starts to give an explanation, and Dante Carlson tells him, it doesn't matter. Right? Appeal to reason? Nope. We're not doing that. That's kicked out the door. There is no appeal to reason at all. And while this is going on, the Carlson group, right, who sent 2 people over, also has Quentin Carlson, and he's an older adult. Madison Cohen, Dante Carlson, A.J. Martin, they're in their early 20s, which is fine. They're certainly adults, but that would be different than somebody in their 40s. Quentin Carlson, he sees what's going on, and what he says, I was worried about the group against one guy. I was worried that they were going to gang up on him and something bad was going to happen to the old guy. So I told my son Tony and Dante to go make sure they don't attack that old guy. That's not somebody looking at it from Nick's perspective, but that's somebody who can see maybe what Nick sees, hear what Nick hears, and his thought is, ooh, something bad's going to happen to that old guy. So he sends over his kids. And when they come over, right, the high school group continues in what I think we now know is a new term, is they gaslight him. They just start making up lies in order to affect his perception of reality and everybody else's perception of reality. As soon as that group comes over, that high school group says, he's a predator. And then immediately they're like, he's looking for little girls. He's looking for little girls. There will be zero evidence that there were ever little girls even anywhere near on that river. Zero. There's going to be zero evidence that he was looking for little girls. But they drum up, right? They get this crowd going. They've got the 2 people here, and they start yelling that. And then the crowd gets to be more, right? As this is going on, it's about 1:13, 1:15 into it, where they start screaming at him. He's looking for little girls. And then you'll see as he's standing here, after he's walked away from that group, he walks over to the adults. He's kind of pointing at them like, I got my snorkel. And they confront him. And as he's standing there, he turns his back on her, and he just stands here. And as he's standing with his back turned, and the path down the river is wide open, instead of just walking on by, Madison Cohen decides she's going to put her hands on him, and she grabs him and starts pulling him. And you'll see he turns around and immediately looks to his hand and says, don't touch me. Don't put your hands on me. They don't walk away. They stand right there. The crowd, the drunk high schoolers, continue to say he's looking for little girls. Somebody says, is that what he said? And then it changes to the next lie is, we've got it on camera. We've got it on camera. You're going to see that they downloaded that phone. There ain't nothing like that on camera. There ain't nothing like that on the camera because that's not what happened. Because these drunk teenagers were gaslighting him and they're enticing a crowd. Nick stands there. He's now got people all around him, right? They're chanting at him, he's a predator, he's a predator. He's all alone. It's getting louder. He raises his left hand to his group. Like, we need some help here. Like something's going on, right? And when that happens, you'll see the camera, Jawan Cohen turns the camera to show where he's waving to. So the high school group has knowledge that Nick Mew, who's standing right here, doesn't want to go that way. Nick Mew, who's blocked right here, wants to go that way. Because that's where his group is, because that's where everybody looks. And you'll see on the camera, Madison Cohen, as she stands and he waves, she turns and looks and sees he's got some friends. So does Madison Cohen say, yeah, why don't you just go that way? She doesn't. What she does is she reaches to her friends and says, hey, get over here. She calls in more numbers. She calls in more numbers to confront him. Because at that point, it was 8 against 1, and she wanted more. So she brought over Riley, she brought over Janelle, she brought over Gabby, and then she calls for Anthony, and then she calls for AJ. And then it's those 13 people that surround him, right? And they're standing there, you're going to see, they're all around him. They are relentless in what they're yelling and screaming. From his standpoint, this is like, what is happening? What world did I just step into in which there's this group of drunk kids, drunk teenagers who, they want to say kids, I get it, but you saw those pictures. They're all bigger than Nick. Nick's smaller than he was then, right? But he hasn't grown any. He's just shrunk more, right? But he's not a big, fit guy, right? They're screaming, they're chanting, right? At that point, yes. Nick, outnumbered 13-1, reaches in his pocket, finds his pocket knife, opens it up, and stands there with it. He doesn't brandish it, but he doesn't hide it. He's standing there with it. His belief at that point is, I don't want to use this. I don't think showing it to him is going to help. But if something happens, I don't know what's going to happen. So he's standing there with the knife. And as he's standing there with the knife, Riley Madison is right in front of him, and she pushes on him. You'll see that in the video. And then next to her, who's blocking him from his people, is Madison Cohen. She takes her right hand, and she pushes his left shoulder. He has to go back. She pushes him back. And while all this is going on, the group of drunk teenagers are screaming, chanting, yelling. The numbers are getting bigger. They come over towards him. Right? They push him again. They block his path. And this is the same. That's what it looks like. You're Mew. You're looking upriver to see where your safety is. Behind you is deeper water. You've walked in that direction before. You appealed to reason, and they said it doesn't matter. They're up in his face, right? And Madison Cohen's pushing and pointing at him, right? And Mew's standing there. He's got the knife in his right hand. He doesn't use the knife. He's standing there while they're pushing and pointing at him, right? And when he does that, all of a sudden, that's when Dante Carlson gets violent, right? He's predisposed for violence, I submit to you. That's the entire purpose of the gaslighting, of getting the crowd there, of yelling with the crowd, of getting it all jacked up, is Jawan Cohen wanted to record a viral video in which some old man was getting beat down, and he was going to get it on tape. He created that world. He put him in that world.
Object. A lot of this is argument, not summarizing.
State, please focus on what you anticipate the evidence will show.
That's what the evidence is going to show, right? Dante Carlson has told you before, and he'll say, it doesn't matter, right? At that moment, that's when Nick Mew raises his left hand to protect himself. He's raised it before to call for help. I think I missed it. He raised another time to call for help, a second time, and now they're crowded around him in his face. He raises his hand to protect it, and that's when they get violent, right? It's a push, not a punch. It's a push to protect himself, not a punch. The evidence. You'll watch that video. You might watch it 20 times. It's not on the video. There's no punch on the video. She's standing there yelling, and when she's standing there yelling, there are 2 people between her and Nick Mew. He's got the knife in his right hand, right? It's not on the video. There's no physical evidence. She says he punches her with his right hand. He's got the knife in his right hand. There's not a mark on her. You're going to see from John Schultz, his video, he spoke with her right then. He's right in her face. He's got a body cam. You'll get to see the body cam of her face, and she, not a blemish on it, not a mark on it. Doesn't support that he punched her. Third thing, multiple evolving stories. Listen to what the witnesses say. Who really says is there a punch, and what position were they in to say it? Because here's what they said before. Quentin Carlson, he told the police, she said he was punched. She said he punched her, but they said it was a slap. So everybody else initially said it was a slap. Gabby, one of the witnesses, says he smacked her with his left hand. She's consistent with he raised his left hand. Mr. Alexander Vang, one of the high school kids, says he hit her with an open hand with his left hand. AJ, he says he saw him pull her hair, which nobody's going to say. That's just wrong. Nobody's going to say anything along those lines. Dante, the person who laid him out after he said that, spoke with the police. And initially what he said to the police is I saw Mew make a swift motion to Riley Madison. Then he says, I saw Mew make a motion towards Riley Madison. Then he says, I saw Mew make a swift motion to Riley Madison. Then he says a fourth time, swift motion, Riley Madison. I don't know what he's going to say when he comes up there now, but what he said before isn't a punch, and it wasn't to Madison Cohen. That's when the violence begins, right? They attracted the crowd. They moved in closer. Now, one of the things you're going to want to ask, and we will ask that, is when this happens, this group of 13 is around and the old man gets knocked and he's down in the ground. Listen to the video. Is there anybody in the group that says, whoa, this is out of hand? No. You'll hear when he gets knocked on the ground, the volume goes up. The cackling and the laughing goes up. And the videographer pushes people away to get in closer to document the beatdown as well as he can. This isn't somebody that's just taking a video on the side. And again, we move around. Dante Carlson is confident enough to still have the beer in his hand while this happens. Mew's response is in self-defense, right? People come at him, and he makes a quick, short jab motion. He believes he has to use the knife because he's outnumbered. AJ Martin once. Riley Madison once. Dante Carlson twice, but he only has 2 stitches. Isaac Schumann once. Dante Carlson once. When they come at him, he does a quick jab. They back up. He doesn't lunge for them. He doesn't follow them. He doesn't recklessly swing it around. They come at him after they gave him a beat down, and he jabs up. Even Brandy Hart, I think you're going to hear from her, right? When Mr. Trofsky asked her questions, when people attacked Mew, he responded. She agrees with that. So what happens is pretty much all on video, right? At the end, the judge is going to read you that jury instruction similar to what he did about credibility. And how much of credibility is going to play a part in this trial is going to be up to you. You guys are the finders of fact. You decide what happened. But I'd submit to you, it's all on video. Pretty much know what happened because it's on video, right? So we can talk about credibility. Nick spoke with the police, right? He told them he was afraid. He told them he feared for his life. He told them he was acting in self-defense. He also told them, I don't really remember anything. And he lied to the police about the knife. He did. He lied about the knife. It was his knife. He brought it. He was outnumbered. He believed he needed to use it. The truth is, he used it because he was surrounded by that angry mob and he was afraid, right? They gave him every reason to be afraid. When their attacks stopped, he walked away. When they stopped, kept coming at him, and every one of them coming at him, right? He responded like a victim of trauma response. You'll hear from witnesses in his group who will say he looked like he was in shock. He was white as a ghost. From his perspective, right? He had just been attacked by an angry mob who was trying to kill him, that he got his way, he got out of there. So as he walks back, he still has fear, right? It's not something that just goes away. That fear is deep inside of him at that point. And as he walks away, he wants nothing to do with the group that just attacked him. He wants nothing to do with the knife, and he tosses it up onto the shore. Maybe not the best decision. Maybe not how he should have responded. But he was suffering from serious shock and trauma at that time. That's what he did. It's not going to be a contested fact. He looks back to his group, right? And they'll say that he's wide-eyed, he's white as a ghost. Remember, he'd just been repeatedly hit in the head, pushed down into the water. His body continued to respond in that way. When he walked away, he knew he'd done some quick jab motions. He didn't know the extent of anyone's injuries. Did he hear them yelling? Sure. They'd been yelling for 2 minutes, screaming and yelling at him. He had been in trauma at that point. He didn't know what the yelling was about. He didn't know that anyone had died. Maybe he should have. Okay, fair enough. But in that situation, would you expect him who'd just been attacked and responded in just short, quick jab motions to know the extent of everyone's injuries? They go back and everyone's like waiting. Traffic on the river pretty much shuts down and they wait there. When the police come by and kind of basically move everybody along, his group moves along to the exit. He's got his hat and his sunglasses and his shirt on, just like he did at the start of the trip. Right? He's been in shock. He'll tell you he was cold. So these are the three things that you need to think about, right? One, what happened? Don't think it's going to be a big mystery. It's on video. And I hope that that's helpful to you. Because the facts, I don't think, are going to be very contested. Two, you are going to be asked, what did Nick believe? Right? He told the police, and he'll tell you, he feared for his life. In that moment, against that group who were violent with him and knocked him down, he feared for his life. Right? The video evidence supports this. Right? And I'd ask you rhetorically, what other reason is there? What other reason could there be? They came at him. He was in fear. He responded. The last question. Were his beliefs reasonable? I don't want to belabor the point about the law, right? Can't find it right away. But it's from his viewpoint, right? It's from his standpoint. The belief may be reasonable, even though mistaken. In determining whether Nick Mew's beliefs were reasonable, the standard is what a person of ordinary intelligence and prudence would have believed in Nick Mew's position under the circumstances that existed at the time of the alleged offense. So what do we know that might help you to decide that, right? We know he walked away and they followed. We know he tried explaining to them and they said, it doesn't matter. We know they told lies about him to incite the crowd. We know he knows that those were lies, and he was watching as this crowd gets louder and more intense and bigger. We know they cut him off from where he wanted to go back up to his wife and his friends. We know that somebody else that was watching, who was kind of like Nick, a little bit younger, about the same fitness level though. And when that person, Quentin Carlson, sees what's going on, his first thought is, there's something bad that's going to happen to that old guy. We know he was surrounded, we know he was outnumbered, and we know that this environment was ripe for violence. That's the environment they carried. And we know that Nick is fragile. He believed he was fragile. This is somebody who went through open heart surgery within a couple of years. He didn't have fitness. They attacked him, kept attacking him. They gave him every reason to believe they weren't going to stop. Were his beliefs reasonable? This is Isaac Schumann. I'm sure he is a wonderful man, wonderful human being. We're going to hear a lot about him. But in this moment, on this day, on that river, when he was drunk, he tried to strangle Nick Mew. His hands were on his throat. He was pushing up against Nick Mew. And Nick reaches out as he's falling back. That's what Nick did. His belief at the time, when he's being strangled, after being constantly attacked because he needed to get that. And the only way that he could do that was with his knife. He believed his life was in danger. We submit to you under those circumstances. That's reasonable. At the end of the trial, we're going to come back up here, right? We'll be back up here, and we're going to ask you to return a verdict of not guilty on all counts. The judge will tell you that last day. He'll tell you the law. If you can reconcile the evidence on any reasonable hypotheses consistent with Nick's innocence, you must return a verdict of not guilty. Again, just one more time. The judge will tell you, if you can reconcile the evidence on any reasonable hypotheses consistent with Nick's innocence, you must do so. You must return a verdict. Only reasonable hypothesis in this case is he feared for his life. And that belief was not unreasonable. They created that world to get that environment. In that world, he believed it in that moment. And that's reasonable, because anyone in that situation would believe the same. So at the end, we'll ask you to do your duty.
In a moment, we will hear from the state's first witness. Members of the jury, members of the gallery, if you want to stand and stretch, you may. We are not going to take a recess. I'll give the attorneys a moment or two to reorganize their tables.
Yeah.
Yeah, just push it up against the... Oh, yes. Can somebody move the easel out of the way? Is everyone ready? All right, members of the jury, we are going to start the evidence. If you would like to take notes, you may take out your notepads. Please don't allow the note-taking to distract you from carefully listening to the evidence, however. Mr. Anderson, who is the first witness?
State calls Stephen Kaufman.
Can you spell the last name?
Kaufman.
Mr. Kaufman, please come forward. And stop right there, face the clerk, raise your right hand. She will administer the oath.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give us tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Please have a seat in the witness chair. Mr. Anderson.
Can you please state your first and last name for the record?
Stephen Kaufman,
And how do you spell your last name?
Kaufman.
And do you usually go by Steve or Stephen?
Steve,
Steve, what do you do for a living?
I'm the owner of River's Edge Campground.
What is River's Edge?
River's Edge is a campground and tubing, wedding reception facility.
Okay. And where is it at?
The exact address?
No, just is it in Somerset, the township?
We're in New Richmond.
And permission to approach?
Yes.
Sorry. 25. Yeah, I'm handing you, it's been marked as exhibit 25. Does that appear to be a map of the route tubers take from your campground?
Yes.
And permission to publish, Judge?
Any objection? All right, you may.
You should me also.
Any objection? 25 is received.
So the arrow on the top right, is that where your campground is located?
That is correct.
And is that about where it's pointing where campers, or tubers, enter the river?
It'd be just to the right or upstream of that arrow. So the arrow would point about where our bridge is. And so just to the right more. In this map, it shows a little island there. It'd be right next to that island.
Okay. Do you want to actually just come circling on here? Okay, thank you. And, you see the arrow marking hideaway? What's that?
That is another campground and tubing facility.
Is that a common place where tubers will stop if they leave from your place?
Yes.
And what's there for, why do tubers tend to stop there? Is there a beach, bar?
They have a bar there, yes.
And then is the exit where tubers get off of the river identified on that map?
It is.
And is that about where that arrow is, a little off?
Oh, that's about correct.
Okay. And you see where that arrow is that says incident location?
Yes,
Are you familiar with that location of the river also?
I am.
And does that bridge, that 35 bridge, have another name that people call it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Have you heard it referred to as the Sunrise Bridge or no?
I have,
Okay. Don't
because
know.
there's a campground that used to be called Sunrise Park. And so that's why they call it that.
All right. And then the exit is the Village Park exit.
Correct.
This whole river route, is that in St. Croix County, Wisconsin?
It is.
If you know, how many tubers about would you get on a typical nice weather Saturday in the summer back in 2022?
River's Edge that day, we had approximately 12 to 1,500.
Oh, on July 30th, 2022?
That particular day, I thought your question was on a nice
Oh.
weather Saturday,
Okay.
but I don't know the exact number for that day, but I'm believing it was in the 1,000 range.
Okay. And when tubers do they rent tubes from you?
They do.
And would you normally see families? Is it known to be kind of a party scene, family scene mix?
A little mixed. River's
Okay.
Edge really strives to get as many families as possible, but yeah, we get mixed.
Okay. And when groups tube together, do they often tie their tubes together?
Correct.
Do you guys sell pre-cut string for tubers to do that?
We do.
And you did back in July of 22 also?
Correct.
About how long does it take to tube from the start to the exit?
Takes about 2 to 2.5 hours on a normal day. Of course, that can fluctuate with river levels and the speed of the water. And that would be without stopping.
Okay. So it depends on how fast the current is.
Correct.
And then it depends on how long and how often people stop.
Correct.
And do you happen to know about how long it takes to tube from the 35 bridge to the exit?
It's about 30 minutes.
Okay. And how about from the hideaway bar to the 35 bridge?
You have similar time. You can see on the map, it's about similar distance as well. So say 30 to 45 minutes for both of those.
And were you working on July 30th, 2022?
Yes, I was.
And at some point, did you get word of an incident on the river?
I did.
Do you remember what you were doing?
I was on my way to the exit just to check on my staff and check on, we collected tubes from the tubers and just do a normal check-in. And Mike Cappers happened to be there at his bus stop and told me about it.
And so you guys, for both, and Mike Cappers is the old owner of Hideaway.
Correct.
And so you guys tubers would go down through the river, either through your place or through the Hideaway, and then all of you would pick up at the Village Park.
Correct.
You have buses going back and forth.
Yes.
And where did you go then once you heard about it?
I went to where he told me the incident had happened. And so I was on my little moped scooter and I drove to the incident.
What was the scene like when you got there?
A large police presence and an ambulance. And
Calm, orderly, chaotic?
I wouldn't say it was chaotic. People were moving at a rapid speed, but it seemed organized.
Were tubers still coming through?
No, we had directed everyone to get off at the hideaway location. At the time I got there, we had already had people directing people off of the river.
And is that something law enforcement asked you to do, or did you just figure you should, if you remember?
I think it was a little of both.
Okay. And at some point, did you get a description of the person who had stabbed people?
I did. When I got to the scene, I ran into a couple who I assumed were husband and wife, and asked them what happened, what was going on. And they said they were tubing with their children. A little upstream from them, they heard some shouting, and by the time they got there, this had happened, and they don't know exactly what had happened. There was a gentleman that they said was, middle-aged man that left the scene.
At some point, did you get a photo of the person who was alleged to have been done the stabbings that was going around?
I did then, so maybe 15 to so minutes, 10 minutes later, then Mr. Cappers texted me a photo that had, I don't know where he got it from or how he got it, but it said this is a picture of the person.
Did you forward that photo on to your staff?
I did, yes.
And did you also have a friend with you that day?
I did. He wasn't with me, but he was at this location when I got there. So
What was his name?
Carl Schilling.
And then did you either give or show him the photo?
At that time, no,
Did you tell
because
him?
we didn't have it yet. I'd left.
Okay.
I had left before I got the photo.
Did you send it to him at some point, if you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. You might have, you might not have.
You're right.
Your friend's name was Carl Schilling, the one that was in the area?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that whether Carl or a staff member later alerted law enforcement to somebody matching the description at the Village Park exit?
I am.
Was that Carl and one of your employees?
Correct.
And I should have clarified, Carl and an employee, two different people.
Correct.
Because Carl's a friend, not an employee.
Yes.
Okay. Do you guys, I forgot to ask this before, do you rent tubes for just people and also for like cooler tubes?
We do rent a cooler tube. It's just another tube with a basket or a space for people to float.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Mr. Nelson?
Carl Schilling, I want to ask you some questions about him, okay?
Yes.
Was he the guy with the baseball bat that went hunting for Nick Mew?
I wasn't with him, so
Okay, but you heard about that. You're aware that he grabbed a bat and went hunting for Nick, right?
I heard that he had a bat. Yes,
And that at some point while holding that bat, he confronted Nick Mew
that's what I heard. Yes,
at the exit, correct?
correct.
I want to ask you some other questions just about the Riverway, okay?
Yes,
You own some property, correct?
yes,
But the river itself, that's public space, agreed?
agreed.
Everyone, if once you're on the river, anyone can use it, correct?
Of course.
No one has more right to be on the river than anybody else, right?
No, sir.
You agree?
I agree.
And certainly no one has more claim to a particular space than anyone else, agreed?
Agreed.
You've heard the expression, stay in your lane, I would imagine?
Yes,
And roads have designated lanes, is that right?
yes,
And you would agree that there are certain responsibilities to do certain things in a particular lane, right?
sure. Yes,
The river, there's no designated lanes, are there?
no,
Sometimes everyone's going in the same direction, hopefully.
correct.
But as far as lanes and designated spaces, it's a bit of a free-for-all, right?
It is a natural river, and
And the
water
space,
is gonna take you, the water will guide you where you need to go.
but the people that are on the river and have the ability to move amongst themselves on the river, they're free to go wherever they want on the river, right?
Yes,
And sometimes there might be some groups that are more dominant than other groups on the river, right? That happens?
Checked on relevance and speculation.
This is staying on form. It's vague. Can you be more specific?
Sure. Are there, you rent tubes to lots of different groups, right?
we do.
You, as you said, some are perhaps younger teenagers, young adults. Yes?
From 6 to 106, yes.
Yep. And some are grown adults in their 40s or 50s, correct?
Of course,
Sometimes you rent to a group of 2 people, right?
yes,
Sometimes you rent to a group of 6 people
correct,
or 10 people.
yes,
And it all depends upon, there's different sizes of different groups, correct?
yes, sir.
And in your experience, there have been some groups that have been larger and louder than other groups?
Sure,
And sometimes there's other groups that might be quieter than other groups, right?
sure,
Maybe depending on the group that you're at, you might have different goals or objectives for the day, correct?
correct,
I'm sure, again, you're not encouraging, but you're aware that there might be some groups that their goal and objective is to go there and get drunk, right?
sure,
You're aware of that, right?
I am,
And then there might be other people that are just there to enjoy a peaceful day with their friends, right?
yes,
And sometimes these groups interact, correct?
correct,
You would agree that the larger and the louder groups don't have any more right to be in a particular place than the quiet groups, do they?
no,
Do you give any messages that to the renters of your tubes to say, like, look, if you see a loud and a large loud group, you need to back away and give them distance right away?
No.
Individuals have the right to be there just as much as everybody else, right?
correct,
So on the river, it is simple as, does might make right? If you're just larger and louder, you get a right to that spot or not?
I wouldn't think so, no.
Those are the only questions. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, do you have anything else?
Since we're asking hypotheticals, I guess. If nobody owns any of the river, it's public.
Correct,
You also wouldn't want somebody harassing another group of tubers.
no,
Nothing else.
Mr. Nelson?
Nothing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. You're free to leave. Is he still under subpoena?
Yes, sorry, yes.
He's free to leave.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Judge, this is just a blown up version. Do you want me to just write 13 on it or put a separate sticker on it?
So the 8 by 11 is 25.
Or 25, I'm sorry, yes.
Mark the blow up as 25A. Yeah, we can take care of that perhaps later. All right, who is the next witness?
So he calls Ryan Nelson.
Mr. Nelson, please come forward. Stop right there. Okay, take a little closer. Turn, face the clerk, raise your right hand. She will administer the oath.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Please have a seat in the witness chair.
Judge, before we begin, we have an agreement on a couple exhibits.
Okay, what's the agreement?
The agreement is that Exhibit 2, the video of the main video would be admitted, as well as the individual frames, which is marked Exhibit 3.
Is that correct, Mr. Trofasi?
Yes.
All right, so exhibit 2 and 3 will be received.
And then we have an agreement that now, before we start taking testimony, we'll publish Exhibit 2 of the video.
You're going to play the video.
Yes.
Members of the jury, you're about to see the video that they have been referring to. Please pay attention. Please listen carefully. Parts of it may be difficult to hear. The video that you're about to see is evidence, so you may consider this along with the other evidence during this trial. Mr.
Can we
Mr.
dim the
Smith,
lights a little bit?
yeah, we can just turn down a bank or two over the monitor. Nothing happened.
It's up.
Did the lights go down?
No, they did over there maybe.
No, try a different bank. How's that? Is that okay? Everybody see? Okay, I think that'll do it.
What is he on? Whoa! Move it away! Oh God! Be up! What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? What? Get away from us! What?
Hold on, y'all. I had it on a little fast, so I'm going to slow it to where it needs to be so you guys can really see what's going on here. So you see, all right, it's about to begin. So this is the video in question that one of the kids recorded. You can hear them yelling. So what happened coming up to this part here is the guy who's on trial, Nick. At the time, he's 54 years old. He's there with his friends, and his friend lost his phone. It's in one of those plastic things, so if it gets wet, hopefully it'll float or whatever. So Nick starts going downstream towards these kids, and one of the kids decides to start recording as they're saying something to him, and then it begins.
How's that? Is that okay? Everybody
so.
see? Okay, I think that'll do it.
What is he on? Whoa! Move it away! Oh God! Be up! What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? What? Get away from us! What? What's going on with y'all homie? He's on camera. Tripping. 4K. He's on 4K. Yo, the new iPhone got that good quality. What do you say? Yeah, what the hell? Who is this? Yes. For the culture. Who is that? For the culture. Who is that? Who the hell is this? Bro, doesn't matter. He's not even looking for little girl. He's not even looking for little girl. You're looking for little girl? Yeah. That's exactly what he said. We're not us out. I even have that part on camera. Did I? Some young ass kid. What the hell is this guy's problem, bro? We're trying to have fun. He's gonna claim you. He's gonna claim you. We don't want this one. That is on camera. That is on camera. He's on camera. Oh God. Oh God. He's on camera. He ain't a woman. He ain't a woman. You ain't a woman. He ain't a woman. You got him. No. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? He's dying. He's dying, bro. What? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Are we serious? Is it real? Oh my God. Who is that? Oh my God. Is this real? Like, that's not Bike! That's not Bike! That's not Bike! That's not Bike! That's not Isaac! Oh my God! Oh my God! This isn't real! This isn't real!
So I'm gonna go back and sorry.
Can we
Just
get
messed
the
up.
lights?
I'm gonna go back and play it a little slower so you guys can see what happened here.
Nothing happened. How's that? Is that okay? Everybody see? Okay, I think that'll do it.
What is he on?
Right here, we have no idea why. So he's coming, and the kid already takes the phone out to start recording him. I think they allege that by seeing the phone that they had and pointing the phones, he didn't know was that the phone or something. So he had approached them, and then he drops his scuba stuff or whatever it is there.
Whoa! Whoa!
So I don't know if it gives feedback when I'm speaking, but
Whoa! Where's your way? Oh, God! Yeah! Yeah! What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about?
he's not saying a word to them at this point. He isn't saying anything. He's now looking down because he dropped his goggles. So they're going to go downriver, right?
Get away from us! What? What's going on with y'all homie? He's on camera. Tripping. He's on smoking. Yo, the new iPhone got that good quality. What do you say?
He said, what did he say? He's looking for his snorkel.
Yeah, what the hell? Who is this? Yes! Yes! Further culture! Further culture! Who is that? Further culture! Who is that? Who the hell is this? Bro, doesn't matter. He's a little girl! He said he was looking for little girl! You're looking for little girl? Yeah! That's exactly what he said. We're us out! I even have that part on camera. Some young ass kid. What the hell is this guy's problem, bro? We're trying to have fun. He's gonna call you. He's gonna claim you. We don't want this one. Oh, God.
He did not hit that girl. Look, right here. No. Mm-mm. He's saying for the culture, for the culture. So it's like it's like a, hold on. Doing it for the culture is our way of ensuring that we have something to pass on for our future. What is an urban initiative for the culture? What does do it for the culture mean? Hold on. Wait a minute. There's actually a whole song about it. Do it for the culture. It's like a ridiculous. It's a saying. It's not ridiculous, but kids are using it in a ridiculous manner because they're ridiculous. There you go. He goes down. He has the knife in his hand right here. You can clearly see by the time he gets up, he has that knife.
You're looking for little girl. Yeah, that's exactly what he said. We're on us out. I even have that part on camera. Some young ass kid. What the hell is this guy's problem, bro? We're trying to have fun. If he's gonna
A few times he's trying to wave to his people on the other side that are over where he's waving. The woman with the sunglasses and blonde hair, she's an adult. When she walks over there, he tells her something. It was in his pocket. It's like a pocket knife. And that's what they were talking about at the beginning is when you get there, you tie all your tubes together. You might tie a cooler to it. You'll tie other things to it because you're just like going down the river together. Hey, Skilo. So that he had it in his pocket.
He hit a woman! He hit a woman! You hit a woman! He hit a woman! What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? He's dying! He's dying back to it, what? Oh my god!
His story is he's a 54-year-old mechanical engineer. He came from, I don't know if it was Poland or not, but they talk about that in the opening statements. He knows English as his sixth language. He has been here for years. He's married. He's never been in trouble. He came to the river to float around with his coworkers, and he was looking for the phone, and he ran into the teenagers, and then all this happened. The more yelling, the crazier it got. You know, he gets hit, he goes in the water, he gets smacked in the face in the water, he gets pushed down by his back, and he comes up with that knife and he just starts going. I don't know. I I don't know how I would feel like with all these people screaming at me I don't know. Like, they're all around me. What? I don't know. How would you guys feel? I guess that was my question. This is as far as I've got. As soon as I saw this, I rewound and went live because I was like, what would I have done? I don't know. It just shocked the shit out of me. I'm like, what just happened here?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Are you serious? Is it real? Oh my god! Who is that? Oh my god! Oh no! Oh my god! Are you real? Are you real? Oh my god! Oh my god! Are you real? Is this real? Like, oh my god!
That's exactly what they were screaming. He's a predator. He's here looking for little girls. He's a predator. And he's just like kind of looking around at them like, what the fuck are you talking about? And that's when the women walk over like, get the fuck out of here. What are you doing? Why are you here? What are you doing? And he's like, he's just looking for the phone, and now he's looking for his goggle stuff. Like, he wasn't there looking for girls or anything like that. He was there trying to look for the phone first. Then he dropped his scuba stuff. So he walks away. They float towards him. They're still yelling shit at him. He turns around and you see he's kind of smiling like, oh boy, what's happening? When the woman comes over, he's thinking, okay, another adult. Maybe this is going to end. But her and the other female, like one of the females, like grabs him by his throat. What? You're not just allowed to put your hands on people. Yeah, Mal. So the one when he's coming up out of the water and that dude is going towards him, you'll see right where he cuts him. Like it's right there. You'll see it so clearly if you're looking. It's right when he comes out of the water. Watch right here. Right there. I missed it again. Like right here, you have to really watch. Watch. Here he comes. The guy in the yellow's pushing him right there. He's the one right here. So he pushed him in the back, right? So he's down on his hands and knees. He pushes him again. He goes to get up and he's right there, that close to him, right? And then he cutted him. Then he cut him. Hey, Dina, it is. He right there, like reactionary. You can see it like, right then and there it happened. But they're still all laughing. They don't even realize this shit happened right now. Watch. And I'm gonna actually slow this part down because I have it really fast. Watch. You'll see it right here. They smack him in the face. Push him down. This one in the orange. Right there. See? I know you saw that. See? Right here is where he stabs him. And he goes upwards. But if you're looking at his hands, look right here. You can't grab somebody by the throat. Like, what is happening? I don't know. It's terrible. Yeah, you can see it now, right? Yep. And they do talk kind of slow, so I'm going to forward it, but.
What the fuck? What? Is it real? Oh my
This
god!
kid reporting and screaming everything is asking if it's real. Well, what do you think, sir? Jesus Christ.
Oh my god!
All right, let me mute and shut up. That's him right there. He does look a lot different. He does have heart problems. He has had a triple or quadruple bypass. He's lost a lot of weight, I'm sure, from the stress, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Can you say your name for the record, please?
Ryan Nelson,
And how old are you, Ryan?
18.
What do you do for a living?
I work in the trades.
Are you a drywall installer or something?
Yeah, drywall finisher.
Where do you live?
Stillwater.
Were you familiar with a person named Isaac Schumann?
Yes.
How did you know him?
He was one of my best friends
How long were you best friends with Isaac?
since middle school.
Do you recall the day of July 30th of 2022?
Yes.
Were you with Isaac on that day?
Yes.
Were you with him when he was killed?
Yes.
How old were you back on July 30th of 2022?
17.
Had you finished high school yet?
No.
What grade were you in?
Summer going into senior year.
On July 30th of 2022, had you made some plans to spend time with your friends that day on the Apple River near Somerset?
Yes.
What was the plan? How did the day start?
Well, we texted the night before and made plans to meet up, and I'll go tubing on the Apple River.
Where did you meet up at?
Stillwater High School.
Who was in your group that day?
Me, Isaac, Owen, Jawan, Landon, Alex.
Judge, I can approach the witness.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 62. Recognize that?
Yes.
Can you tell us what it is?
It's a picture of all my friends over there.
Fair to say it's a composite picture.
Yes.
Are those pictures of you folks from the river on July 30th of 2022?
Yes.
Are those photos from after the incident with Mr. View?
Yes.
Does that explain the looks on your faces?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to publish to the jury. I have a blow up.
Any objection to 62?
No.
All right, 62 is received. Go ahead and publish. The other side might be easier because it doesn't have a paper.
When you got to Stillwater High School that day, was the plan to all ride together over to the Apple River?
Yes.
Who drove?
Alex Hang.
When I have you look at Exhibit 62 there, that you're holding on to, can you identify the folks in the picture for the jury? From left to right.
Alex Vang, Juwan Carfield, Owen Peliquin, me, Ryan Nelson, Landon Wire, and then Isaac Schumann.
That's Isaac in the hat on the right.
Yes.
Is that what you were all wearing on the river that day?
Yes.
You may have already answered this, but who drove from Stillwater over to the Apple River?
Alex Vang.
And y'all went in his vehicle?
Yep.
Where did you go first?
We went right up to park where we got the tubes. River's Edge, I think it's called.
You rented tubes there?
Yeah.
You remember how many tubes you rented?
One for each of us, and then one more for our stuff, I believe.
When they give you the tubes, are they connected together, or do you connect them together there?
You had to get a wire, like a twine, to connect them together.
Did you do that?
Yes.
Did you make sort of one big raft out of your tubes?
Yes.
After you rented the tubes, did you get on the river right away, or were you hanging out in the park?
No, we went right straight to the river.
All right. Do you know what time it was when you got on the river?
Not exactly. Probably roughly around noon.
Judge, I can approach the witness again.
Yes.
Brian, when you rented the tubes, do you remember paying for them?
No.
All right. Do you remember getting a receipt?
No, I don't.
I'm showing this to Mark as exhibit 27B. Can you take a look at that? And specifically look at the backside. Whose name's at the top?
Alex Vang.
Who's that?
He's one of my friends. He's on the river.
All right. At the bottom, there's a time for when you rented the tubes. Can you tell us what that is?
12:39.
You didn't see this that day, though?
No, I don't remember.
Your Honor, I'll move to admit that exhibit. I don't know if there's any objection to it.
Any objection?
Well, there's no foundation.
Sustained.
We'll wait till.
That's fine.
Once you got on the river, did you folks bring drinks with you
Yes.
in a cooler of some sort?
Yes.
What were you drinking?
Beers and seltzers.
All right. You're 17 at the time?
Yes.
Do you remember how many beers you had?
I personally had about 3 to 4.
Were you or other folks in your group Smoking marijuana?
Yes.
Was Isaac Schumann smoking any marijuana?
I don't think so, no.
As you're going down the river, did you eventually have contact with the defendant, Mr. Mew?
Yes.
Do you know where it was when you first saw him?
Where the incident happened?
Sure. Were you near any landmarks that you can remember?
A bridge.
What was he doing when you first approached him?
Well, he first approached us. He was snorkeling by our tubes.
Did you ask him what he was doing?
Yes, multiple times.
What did he tell you?
He didn't say anything.
Did he ever tell you he was looking for a phone?
No.
Do you ever remember hearing him saying anything about looking for little girls?
No, not me personally.
All right. Ultimately, did you approach your group?
Yes.
You were here when we played the video in the court right before your testimony?
Yes.
The first part of that video, did you see Mr. Mew running up towards your group?
Yes.
Is that the legs of a couple of your friends in that video, the first few seconds of that video?
Yes.
That's your raft of tubes?
Yes.
As Mr. Mew is running up on your group, did he say anything about why he was running towards you?
No.
Did he say why he was grabbing onto your tubes?
No.
Were you able to see on the video that he was reaching towards where the legs were of the two people in the tubes that you can see in the video?
Yes.
Did he make physical contact with those folks?
He didn't make physical contact with me, so I know.
Did everybody bail out of their tubes once he ran up?
Yes.
Did you have some concern when you saw him running up and grabbing onto your tubes?
Yeah, a lot.
Did he say anything at all after he grabbed onto your tubes?
No.
Were you sitting or standing in your tube when he ran up?
Sitting.
Did you get up?
Yes.
Why?
I was scared.
Were you trying to get away from him?
Yes.
Did you say anything to him?
Yes, we asked him what he was doing, and we told him to leave multiple times.
All right. Fair to say you were raising your voice and yelling at him?
Yeah.
Like we saw in the video?
Mm.
Did you threaten him in any fashion?
No, not at all.
Did you hear Isaac Schumann threaten Mr. Mew in any fashion?
No.
Did you yourself have any kind of knife?
No.
Did you see anybody in your group with any kind of knife?
No.
Is it fair to say you're calling him some names?
Yeah.
Why were you doing that?
We had no idea of his intentions, and we asked him, and he never ever stated them.
At some point, were you yelling for him to get away?
Yes.
Did another group on the river come over to investigate what was going on?
Yes.
Did you know any of those people?
No.
Did you see where they came from?
Just the other side of the river.
Were they adults or were they kids?
Young adults.
Older than your group?
Yeah.
Once this other group came over, was it women or men, if you remember?
I believe two girls approached first.
All right. And what did they do when they approached?
Also told him to leave.
All right. Did he leave?
No.
Once these other folks came over to tell him to leave, did that change your level of concern with what he was doing?
Yeah.
In what way?
It was a little confusing and also concerning why he wasn't leaving. He could have just removed himself from the situation like everyone asked him to.
Did he ever tell you why he wanted to stay near your group?
No.
Was it fair to say that at some point you and your friends were laughing at him?
Yeah.
And why were you doing that?
We thought he was just really weird, to be honest.
Do you remember how many folks were in the group that came over to help you guys?
No.
Do you know how many times you told Mr. Mew, or you and your group told Mr. Mew to leave you alone?
More than I can count.
Your Honor, we're going to show still 1219 from Exhibit 3. All right, Ryan, do you see the picture that's on the screen in front of you?
Yes.
That's still number 1219 from the video. Can you tell us who's in this picture?
Isaac, Owen, and then I can't quite tell that guy on the left is.
All right. Is Isaac, which one is Isaac?
Purple shorts,
Is he wearing a hat or not wearing a hat?
wearing a hat,
What is Isaac doing in this picture?
holding Owen. It looks like arm towards Owen and looking at Mr. Mew maybe.
The person on the right, who's that?
Owen Pelican.
He was also in your group?
Yes.
What's he doing at that point?
It looks like saying something to Mr. Mew.
Where were you when that, if you remember, where were you in location to this picture or in relation to this picture?
I believe I was near Juwan and Landon.
Back behind the tubes?
Yeah.
John's the person taking the video?
Yes.
Now we're going to show still number 1279. All right, Brian, this is still frame 1279 from the video. What does this picture show?
Isaac with his hands raised.
All right, does he have anything in his hands?
No.
Who's that in front of Isaac?
Mr. Mew.
Are Isaac's hands open or closed in fists?
Open.
Can you tell, or do you remember what he was doing with his hands at that point?
No, just looks like he has his hands raised.
I'm going to show you now, still 1297 from the video. Who was in this picture?
Me.
That's you on the left?
Yep.
Holding onto the tubes?
Yes.
Mr. Mew on the right?
Yes.
Is that Isaac, part of Isaac's arm in that photo?
Yes, looks like it.
All right, do you have anything in your hand in this photo?
No.
Referring to your right hand, your left hand you can't see, right?
Yeah, I didn't have anything in my left hand either. No.
2596. Showing you still frame 2596 from the video. Can you tell us what that is?
Me.
All right, and on the right, who's that, if you know?
I don't recognize her.
Is that one of the folks that came over to
Yeah.
help you out? Do you have anything in your hands there?
No.
At that point, you appear to be smiling.
Yeah.
While you were having this argument with Mr. Mew and trying to figure out what he was doing, were you able to see his face?
Yeah.
Did he look to be frightened?
No.
What kind of
Smiling.
facial expression did he have?
He was smiling.
While you were having this argument with him, were you able to tell whether he had anything in his hands?
No.
Did you ever see him holding a knife?
No.
Fair to say the video shows that the incident happened pretty fast.
Yeah.
While the two women are talking to Mr. Mew, what happened next? What did he do?
He punched one of the girls in the face.
You remember which one it was?
I believe the blonde one. Not
All right.
100% sure though.
And looking back at the photo that we have up, which is 2596, is that where you were standing when he punched the blonde woman in the face?
Relatively, yeah. Yeah.
So fairly close?
Yeah.
Prior to Mr. Mew punching the blonde woman, had you seen anybody strike him in any fashion?
No.
You didn't see anybody punch him?
No.
When you say he punched the lady, is it possible that he was flailing his arms to protect himself or something along
No.
those lines?
It looked like he struck her definitively with his right hand.
After the blonde woman was punched, what happened next? Did somebody,
I believe her friends tried to come to her rescue and push Mr. Mew to the ground and hit him and pushed him again.
you saw that?
Yeah.
Did you see him in the water?
Yes.
Do you remember how many times he was hit when he was in the water?
2 or 3 maybe, I believe.
Right. At some point, did he get on his hands and knees?
Yeah.
What happened next?
He got up, swinging his knife and stabbing everyone.
At that point, did you know that he had a knife in his hand?
Yeah, well, I know until I saw the person standing next to me who had his whole stomach cut open. And, yeah.
The person who got his whole stomach cut open, was he holding any kind of knife?
No.
Did you see anybody in the group that came over to help you have any kind of weapons?
No.
What did you do after you realized that one gentleman had his belly slit open?
I was in shock. I didn't really know what to do. I tried to tell my friends because I'd make sure they were seeing what I was seeing. And then I went and stood in our tubes.
You left the general area?
Yeah.
Were you aware that Isaac had been stabbed?
Not for like a minute.
Eventually, did you realize that Isaac was down?
Yes.
Did you see him in the water?
Yes.
Did you see a wound on his body?
Yes.
Where was it?
His upper chest.
Was he bleeding?
Yes.
Ultimately, did you and then the rest of your group or attempts made to help Isaac get to shore?
Yes.
Who did that?
Owen and Alex.
Right. And where were you at that point?
I was still standing in the tubes.
Were you injured at all?
No.
Did you ever lay a hand on Mr. Mew?
No.
After you realized that folks had been stabbed, did you see what Mr. Mew did? Did
No.
you see where he went?
Mm-mm.
Is that a no?
Yeah, no, sorry.
We're going to show you still frame 3177. Can you tell us who's in this picture that you know of?
The only person I recognize is myself.
All right, you're in the blue trunks in the middle.
Yes.
Is this the point where Mr. Mew had punched the blonde woman?
Yes.
Did you take a step forward?
Yes.
Why'd you do that?
In her defense to help protect her.
All right. Did you end up doing anything to help protect her?
No.
I think you already testified some other gentleman took care of that.
Yes.
Whereabouts on her body did Mr. Mew punch the blonde woman?
I believe in her face.
Say that again.
In her face, I believe.
All right. At some point then, did you go to the area where Isaac was being laid on the shore of the river?
Yes.
Did you, the rest of your group also end up there?
Yes.
Did anybody call 911 if you know?
Yes.
You know who did that?
Not. I think a lot of people did. I don't know who specifically.
Were there some folks that stopped to render aid to Isaac?
Yes.
Was one of them a nurse?
Yes.
What kind of aid did she give Isaac?
I wasn't over there. I'm not sure.
All right. Did you see anybody doing CPR on him?
I wasn't close enough.
All right. At some point, did the police arrive on the river?
Yes.
They waded through the water to get to where you folks were?
Yes.
Did you speak to the police officers
After. Yes.
up on the shore?
Yep.
At some point, was Isaac taken off the river?
Yes.
Was he ultimately put in an ambulance and taken to a hospital?
Yes.
Did you follow?
Yes.
Do you remember which hospital they brought him to?
Is it Lakeview in
Right.
Stillwater?
When you were at Lakeview Hospital, did you speak with an officer there as well?
Yes.
Even though this incident happened almost 2 years ago, do you still remember the face of the person who did this?
Yes.
Do you see him in the courtroom here?
Yes.
You point him out and say what he's wearing?
He's wearing a black suit, black pants, brown shoes.
All right, that's the record to reflect identification of the defendant.
Next question, please.
Nothing further.
Mr. Trofficy.
Judge, the 9-second video is on exhibit 2 also, which the state also was doing that.
Any objection?
No, sir.
All right, let's proceed. Go ahead.
Very good. Okay. Do you need, right?
I just don't want it on the, can you, the jury shouldn't see my screen.
It's clear.
So, Mr. Nelson, you provided an interview with a
Clear. Monitor's off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
with an investigator, Dittman. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And to start with, one of the things that Officer Dittman was interested in was how much alcohol you had consumed that day. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
Okay. And he told you weren't going to get in any trouble for anything. He just wanted the truth, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated to him, well, he initially asked you if you guys were drinking any hard alcohol, right?
Yep.
And you said that you weren't.
Yep.
That's a lie, right?
No, I myself was not drinking hard alcohol.
You guys brought Tito's vodka in water bottles and were doing shots on the river?
I wasn't, but my friends were. Yes.
Okay. And you were asked about Isaac drinking that day.
Yes.
Right? And you had told Officer Dittman that you think you had 3 or 4 drinks.
Yes.
And you said, I think Isaac had about the same.
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that Isaac's alcohol level was almost a 0.22?
Object, Your Honor.
Was not aware of that.
Hold on.
Foundation.
Come on up. Objection overruled. Mr. Trofficy.
Mr. Nelson, are you aware that Isaac Schumann's blood alcohol concentration was a 0.219?
No, I was not aware.
Okay. But you say that you guys were about the same, right, in alcohol?
Well, I was just a guess. He asked me to provide an estimate, and I did. I wasn't keeping track of other people's drinks.
Right, but you provided that your estimate and
Yeah.
your drinking and his drinking were pretty close.
Yes.
So you were impaired, yes?
Slightly, yes.
Okay. And you were asked and gave some answers regarding your initial contact with Mr. Mew. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Okay, and you had said, if I have it right, he snorkeled by us and didn't say anything.
Yep.
Okay. Your interview with Detective or Investigator Dittman, you indicated, yeah, so this weird guy, he was wearing a snorkel at first, came up to us and was kind of like talking to us, and we were a little weirded out, right?
Yep.
So which one's true?
I don't remember him saying anything.
Okay, so when did you give the statement to Investigator Dittman?
Was that the one at the bank or the hospital?
How many interviews did you give?
2.
When did you give them, if you remember?
One was on the bank after the incident, and then one was at the hospital.
Is your memory better back then about what happened, or is it better today?
I'm not sure.
Well, do you remember things that happened closer in time to the event, or as more time goes by?
I think I remember them both the same.
So if something happened 2 years ago, you would remember it the same as if you were giving that statement a day or two after.
Yeah, I would try.
Okay. So you don't recall him saying anything to you guys, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you all were saying something to him, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. You didn't tell that to Investigator Dittman, did you?
I don't remember.
You left out the fact that you guys started taunting him and tormenting him. Right?
After we told him to leave, yes.
Well, talking about the first time, not the second time that we've seen the video. The first time we haven't seen the video for yet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that incident?
Yes.
Okay. You don't tell Investigator Dittman about what you guys were doing to Mr. Mew at that point, do you?
No.
Why not?
I just didn't think it was relevant.
You didn't think it was relevant on this person that you're saying did all these things to your friends? Wasn't relevant that you had contact with him earlier that day?
It was like seconds before. It wasn't like earlier in the day. It was around the same time.
Right. And you didn't think it was relevant that you would inform him that you guys were taunting Mr. Mew and calling him names, right?
No.
Okay. I'm going to show you what has been marked as exhibit number 2. I'm going to play you a short video and ask you if you remember the video.
Okay. We're going to keep the screens blank until you tell us you're ready. Does that mean you're ready, or are you going to all right?
Yes, we're ready, Judge. I apologize. Playing the 9-second video on Exhibit 2. Trying to.
Grown man trying to have sex with little girls. Who the hell? What the fuck? He's a raper. Whoa.
So he's walking by you guys. He's not right on top of you there, is he?
He was previously, but not in that moment. No, he's not.
So your friend just didn't get that on video.
No, we started taking the video once he was being weird towards us. We wouldn't have videoed him just out of the blue.
So when he was just walking by there and your friend just started saying, you can't have sex with little girls, right?
That was after he was snorkeling under our tubes without saying anything.
Where do you tell Officer Investigator Dittman that he was snorkeling underneath your tubes?
By our tubes.
Oh, so by your tubes, not underneath your tubes.
Misspoke. I apologize.
Okay. So he's snorkeling by your tubes.
Yep.
And you guys are calling him names.
No, we asked what he was doing and who he was, why he was there. Because we found it a little weird that he was not in a tube like everyone else, but he was snorkeling right by our tubes. And so we asked him what he was doing. He never said anything. So then we started calling him names, yeah.
Okay. And the purpose of, you don't know him, do you?
No.
The purpose of calling a grown man that you've never met a raper.
That wasn't me.
Okay. The purpose of, do you know why that was said?
No.
To your knowledge, had Mr. Cockfield ever met Mr. Me before?
No.
Okay. You think it was funny?
No.
Did you ever tell him to stop?
No.
Okay. And shortly after this is when Mr. Mew moves toward your tubes. Is that right?
Yeah, when he runs at us.
Okay. And your statement to Investigator Dittman is that Mr. Mew was standing over your tubes. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know why he came up to your tubes?
No.
Was Jawan Cockfield holding a camera at that time?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. And to your knowledge, Mr. Mew he comes up to your tubes, then he walks around the tubes and actually starts to walk away from you guys, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying, your group is saying, get away, go. And he's doing that. right?
Not really,
You just said he was walking away,
but he didn't leave. He didn't walk away. He just walked a couple of steps and then stayed near.
and you guys follow.
No,
You don't advance toward him. Your group doesn't advance.
we
Toward him.
stayed by our tubes. As you saw in the still frames. I'm standing right next to our tubes.
You showed us the still frame, or we saw the still frame involving Isaac Schmidt, right?
Yeah.
When he's got his arms up in the air like this, right?
Yes.
He's not standing next to his tube. Is he?
I don't know. He might be. You might be able to see this tubes in the picture. I can't remember.
He's confronting Mr. Mew, isn't he?
No, had his hands up, raised. He was telling him to leave. Also, there's no confrontation at that point.
I guess what I'm trying to ask you here, Mr. Nelson, is you guys told him to leave, so he moves away from you. Then your group moves toward him. That's true, right?
I don't think we really. He left. You keep saying he leaves, and I don't. He never really left.
Can you just bring it? I'd rather just see the video. Sure. I'm going to show you. I'm just going to play for you a really short portion of the video that you've already seen.
Okay.
Okay. And I want you to tell me when you watch it if it appears to you that Mr. Mew is walking away from your group.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, keep it out until he's ready. Hold on a second. Yeah.
Yes, we're ready.
So at 27 seconds, Mr. Nelson, I want you to watch this video first for a brief moment.
On camera, guys. Let's flip it. Yo, the new iPhone got that good quality. What do you say?
See, he's walking away from your tube there.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, but at the end of the video, you can see him turn his body back towards us, and then I assume he walked back towards us.
You don't know if he did.
We could watch the rest of the video and find out.
Well, we will, but your group walks toward him, right? You keep saying that you don't, and it's clear they're moving in his direction. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And you're moving in his direction because you've testified that you're scared, right?
Our tubes were all still right around our tubes. That's our property. We're not like.
How come you don't go around him? You said that he could.
What do you mean?
Hold on. You said he could leave, right?
Yeah.
You could have walked away. You could have walked away, right?
Yeah.
You didn't walk away either, did you?
No.
And that river, anybody can use that river, if we're being honest with one another, true?
Yeah.
Okay. So he doesn't have any more responsibility to walk away than you guys do, does he?
Nope.
Okay. And if I said to you that at some point this other group starts coming over, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, are you guys calling him a pedophile?
I think, yeah, we were previously.
You were previously calling him a pedophile.
Like, we were shouting, and that's, I think, why they came over.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you said you believe that's why they came over?
They heard us shouting, so I
Sure.
believe, yeah.
And certainly to you, shouting pedophile could be something that would draw people's attention, right?
Yes.
So you don't have any information that he was looking for small children, do you?
No.
Okay. You'd agree calling somebody a pedophile isn't the same thing as calling somebody like a jerk or a-hole or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's like you're telling somebody, you're telling people this guy's looking to have sex with small children, right?
I didn't say that.
That's what a pedophile is, though, you know, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys, to a man you've never met before, have no information about, people in your group are yelling on the river that he's a pedophile. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And by your own admission, you believe that draws the attention of another group of people to come over.
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember independently, I know you've seen the video now, do you remember independently, he walks away from you guys kind of over to her, doesn't he? Like walking toward you. Is that true?
Yes.
And she, to your recollection, immediately tells him, go get your fucking ass, go. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of what you can see, she doesn't wait to find out what's actually happening either, does she?
No.
Right?
Yep.
She jumps into this and is yelling for Mr. Mew to go without knowing anything about what had happened based on the contact you had.
Yes.
Okay. And you describe her to police as, quote, getting in his face. Is that fair?
Yep.
What do you mean by that?
She was yelling at him to leave.
Well, you could yell at me to leave from here, right?
Yeah. She was close to him, right in front of him.
Okay, so I won't I won't invade your space, but what you're in your definition of getting in someone's face is getting close to them. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And is it in part based on the volume of her voice too?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I said to you, what you observed is this woman, her name is Madison Cohen,
Okay.
but she is close to his face yelling at him. Is that
Yes.
fair? Yes?
Yep.
Okay. And at that point, he's alone, to your knowledge, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And that's a yes.
Yes. Sorry.
And initially there's 6 guys in your group.
Yep.
And you say that 2 females come over.
Yes.
Okay. More people come over as this continues on. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay. So at one point, it's at least, if you know, it's at least 10, 12 versus 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you see, well, can I ask you this? Do you believe that the situation was getting, that the temperature was rising in terms of the situation as time was passing?
Maybe a little. Yeah.
Okay, so it started out maybe here, and as time is going, the blonde shows up. It starts getting more and more heated. Is that fair?
A little. Yeah.
Okay. So in a situation where it's getting more and more heated, would you agree that physically putting your hands on another person in that situation could be a show of aggression?
I object, Your Honor. That calls for conclusion.
Sustained.
Did you see Madison Cohen, the blonde girl,
Mhm.
put her hands on Nick Mew?
No.
Did you see her at any point move him or redirect him with her hands?
No.
Okay. So you had said that his presence here made you afraid.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to show you. Do you recall ever saying personally in your contact, you got 10 seconds?
No, I don't remember saying that.
So you're not saying that you said it.
I don't remember saying that. No.
Okay. Do you recall other people in your group? Do you remember hearing that being said?
No.
Okay. To you is a statement. If I said to you, you got 10 seconds, is that something that you would take as a show of aggression?
Objection, Your Honor. It's same objection.
It's what?
It's the same objection. It's called, it's
Same.
Can you play the video? So I need you to listen to this,
Okay.
Mr. Nelson, and it might take more than once, but I want you to listen to hear if you hear someone in your group saying that, okay?
You can play from the 35-second mark to the 45-second mark. I think it happens at the 39-second.
Please tell us when you're ready for the video.
What do you say?
Did you hear that?
No.
Okay, can you play it at least one more time?
And again at 36 seconds.
What do you say?
So you hear somebody say you got 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that, based on, that's not Mr. Mew talking, right?
No.
Okay, so somebody in your group is saying you've got 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. And at that point, are you still frightened?
Just more weirded out now.
Okay, so it goes from frightened to weirded out.
Yeah, he moved away from us a little bit, so it was more scared when he ran at us and grabbed our tubes, and then it became more like, who's this guy? I'm more weirded out.
Okay. Did it go from then weirded out to not really afraid at all?
Yeah.
Right. There comes a point that you've seen on here where your group has kind of surrounded Mr. Mew, and you're all taunting and pointing at him. Is that right?
I'm going to object, Your Honor, to the term surrounded. I think it's a mischaracterization.
Why not? Objections overruled. Mr. Sharpson.
So you would agree that your group had moved around him, and you watched the video. You're all pointing at him, taunting him, calling him a predator, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So is it fair to say at that point the fear has left you?
Yeah.
And do you personally feel more confident because the other group has come over?
Maybe a little.
Okay. So fair if I said strength in numbers. The more people that are around, the more confident you're becoming. Is that fair?
I guess I lost fear that he was going to do something weird to us. Yeah.
Okay. And the other people coming over helped you lose that fear?
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah.
Because you had a lot of people around, right?
Yeah.
Now, can I ask you, I don't want to get too close to you, but you say that, if this is fair, Madison Cohen, blonde girl.
Yep.
Is she in his face when she gets punched?
I would say she's at the same distance she was the whole time. So yeah.
Okay, so she's in his face, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Would you say that's in his personal space?
Maybe.
Okay. So based on your recollection, she may be standing in his personal space yelling at him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can you tell me, you said on direct examination that Mr. Mew punches her in the face with his right hand.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yes.
You believe that to be true?
I believe he struck her with his right hand. Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that at the time that he would have struck her, he was holding onto a knife?
No, I was not aware.
Okay. If I told you that fact is true, would that change your opinion?
No.
You would still say a man who's holding a knife struck her in the face with his fist?
Yeah. The knife is not in front of his fist.
Okay, so you think this is how you think that the knife is in his hand and he comes across and punches her in the face?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember would he have hit her on the left or the right side?
The right side, I believe. She fell down towards the left.
Okay, so
sorry, I'm getting confused. Left side, I guess.
Okay, so you believe he's holding a knife in his hand and he punches her in the left side of her face?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see any marks on her?
No, I didn't. I don't think they had time to be marks or really check before everything happened.
Okay, but you don't. My question is, you don't see her have any marks on her face, true?
No, I didn't check for marks.
Okay, and you say that she goes down. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to show you. Okay. You have an individual JPEG here. 2644, the photo of it. Okay.
Okay.
So now at 2644, I think you testified you're moving forward.
Yes.
Okay. I do. Keep going. Okay, right there. So we've gone from 2644 to 2653, right?
Mm-hmm.
That blonde is the girl that you said was punched in the face and went down, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree she's holding on to her drink? See that?
Yes.
And can you go one or two more, Aaron? Looks like she's got a cell phone tucked in her trunks on the top. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree she doesn't go down, right?
If that was the woman that was punched, then
Well, she's the blonde, right?
yeah.
Okay. So do you agree now looking at this, she doesn't go down?
Yeah.
Okay. You believed that she did go down though?
Yeah, maybe it was just a stumble on. I guess I'm not sure. My attention was quickly averted to Mr. Mew after that.
Okay. All right. You had provided information or a statement to Officer Didman. He had asked you about any contact that Isaac may have had with Mr. Mew. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you had indicated that you never saw that happen. You never saw Isaac make physical contact with Mr. Mew.
Yes.
Okay. Have you watched the video, right?
Yes.
So now you're aware that Isaac has his hands around Mr. Mew's throat.
I didn't know that he had his hands around, so no.
You didn't see that?
No.
Okay. Is that something that you saw?
No. That was pretty late. I think Isaac was the last one stabbed on video. And so by that time I was focused on the guy next to me who had his whole stomach cut open.
Okay, but I guess my point is, initially you say you didn't see Isaac make contact with him. You see on that video somebody with their hands around Mr. Mew's throat, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't know if that's Isaac or not.
No, we can watch it again and I can tell you what I think, but I don't.
Is he wearing a bracelet, like a gold bracelet on his wrist?
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, can I ask you this? No, you'd agree with this. On that video, nobody is stabbed until Mr. Mew is punched in the face and knocked in the water, right? You agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you would agree that the people that are injured with the knife, that all happens after Mr. Mew has been knocked in the water, punched, slapped, pushed, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't attack Mr. Mew, do you?
No.
Okay. And he doesn't do anything to you, does he?
No.
It's all Justin.
Mr. Smithstone?
Exhibit 3.
So Ryan, the Trophy has asked you about Mr. Mew walking away from your group of tubes after he had run up on you.
Yes.
Did he walk downriver or upriver?
Back up towards the other group that
I'm asking about when he first stepped away.
downriver.
All right, and is that the direction your tubes were going?
Yeah.
So he was between you and the exit?
Yes.
You had indicated that you were holding on to the tubes. You didn't want to lose the tubes, obviously.
Yes.
You paid money for them. Was the natural flow of the river carrying your tubes towards him?
Yes.
A lot of questions about your memory. You do recall giving your statements to the police, right?
Yes.
And would it be fair to say that this has been so long now that your statements to police were given when your memory was probably a little fresher than it is right now?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Is your memory better now? Mr. Dropasy had asked you if your memory is better now than it was back then.
Yes.
Right. Do you think that you remembered things better when you first talked to the police or now, or the same? I think you said the same.
Probably the same, yeah.
All right. Do you recall talking to the officers about the names that you'd called Mr. Mew?
No.
Right. You might have done that.
Maybe.
But it refresh your memory to see a portion or hear a portion of what you told the officers with regard to calling him a pedophile?
Sure.
And the point is, Mr. Tropasy asked you why you left out the fact that you called him a pedophile. Do you remember that? In fact, you didn't leave that out? Your Honor, can I approach the witness to show him a digital copy of the transcript of his interview with Investigator Dittman? It's a transcript that was provided by Mr. Nelson.
For what purpose?
To refresh his memory as to what he told Investigator Dittman about what they were calling Mr. Mew at the time.
You say had trouble remembering? I lost that.
Mr. Tropasy indicated that Mr. Nelson, Ryan Nelson, did not tell police that they were calling him a pedophile, which I intend to refresh his memory to show that he did tell the police that at the time, immediately after the incident.
The objection?
If he needs his memory refreshed, he can do that. Judge, I don't know if I missed it either. So
Yeah. I'm not hearing the magic words, is I guess what I'm driving at. That this is going to help him refresh his memory.
It's two sentences.
I think you're missing the point.
All right. I'll move on, Your Honor. Is it possible that you told Officer Dittman or Investigator Dittman something back then that you don't remember now?
Yes.
And it would being able to see a transcript of what you said, refresh your memory as to what you told them?
Yes.
How can I do it, Your Honor?
on what issue?
I don't know.
Sorry,
Sustained. Objection sustained.
Can we approach Judge?
Yes. All right, let's continue. Mr. Smestad.
Ryan, do you remember telling an officer what kind of names you were calling Mr. Mew at the time?
No.
All right, and if I Rotron, he's indicated he doesn't remember.
You have to ask him what will help him remember.
But if you saw a transcript of your interview with Investigator Diven, would that help you remember?
Yes.
Now you can approach.
Showing the digital copy of the transcript, can you just read the highlighted portion?
No.
Read it yourself. That help you remember what you told Investigator Diven?
Yes.
What did you tell him about the names you were calling Investigator Diven?
I said we were all calling him a pedophile and saying this was weird and he needs to get out of here.
So that was that information you were trying to keep from the police?
No.
At that point, were you aware that there had been a video made by John Cockfield of the incident?
Yes.
Were you aware that the police had it?
Yes.
At the time that Mr. Mew ran up and grabbed onto your tubes, did he grab them in an area where some of your friends had their legs positioned?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Where did he grab your tubes?
Where we were sitting?
Were there people in those areas?
Yes.
What parts of their bodies, if any, were close to where he grabbed?
Legs.
Did you know whether or not he was trying to grab onto their legs?
Objection speculation.
Sustained.
Mr. Chirafisi had asked you about someone in your group saying you got 10 seconds. Do you know who that was directed at?
No.
You know who said it?
No.
Did you hear it on the video when he played it for you twice?
Yes.
Did you hear Mr. Mew being described as the person who had 10 seconds?
No.
Mr. Chirafisi had asked you about whether you had less fear of Mr. Mew once the other folks came up. Why did you have less fear?
I believe they were going to help us and help us get him away.
Were these other folks kids or adults?
Young adults.
After the blonde woman, Madison Cohen, is punched, did you take the time to check to see if she had any injuries to her face?
No.
You've seen the video of the incident here today?
Yes.
You had indicated earlier, I think, that everything sort of happened right after that, right?
Yes.
Did you see where Madison Cohen ended up going after
No.
she was punched? You
No.
didn't? Did you, you indicated that you thought she fell down, and then on cross-examination, you said that she may have just stumbled backwards. Do you remember specifically whether she fell or stumbled backwards?
No.
But as you sit here today, is that what your impression of what happened was at the time?
Yes.
Mr. Dropsy had asked you about Madison Cohen, the blonde woman, being in Mr. Mew's face. I'm going to show you a slide. A still, it is number 2593.
Tell us when you're ready.
Ready? Do you see that still frame from the video?
Yes.
Is this what you were referring to?
Yes.
Is that where she was located when he punched her?
I believe so.
Do you remember where you were in relation to this photo off screen at that time?
To the left side of the women, right side of Mr. Mew.
When she was punched, did you hear an impact?
Yes.
When you gave your two statements to the police, both one at the riverbank and one at the hospital, did you tell them that he had punched her?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Mr. Dropsy.
You would agree that when Mr. Mew moved over to go talk to Madison Cohen, you could have all just went right by.
Yes.
But you stayed, right?
Yep.
And you were asked about just the 10 seconds, right? You got 10 seconds.
Yes.
You didn't believe that was directed at you, did you?
I didn't hear it.
Okay. Would it make sense to you that it would be directed at Mr. Mew based on what was happening?
I'm not sure. I don't know who said it.
And you said that your fear was reduced once more people came. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me if this is fair. When it was the 6 of you, you had, according to you, some level of fear. When it became 13, you didn't have any fear.
I had less fear, yes.
Okay. Through this whole thing, he was alone, right?
Yes.
Okay. So at one point, it's 13 versus 1. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you said that you remember Ms. Cohen falling, and now you think that might be incorrect. Is that true?
Falling or stumbling.
Levon, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That you say she was punched and she fell.
Some sort of falling or stumbling motion, yes. I believe that's true.
Okay. You'd agree that she never dropped her drink in that picture, right?
Yeah.
And her phone doesn't leave her body, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Nelson, I appreciate your time today.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. You can step down. Is he released from his subpoena? No? Okay. Is there a coordinator here that can assist him? All right. She'll give you further instructions about what to do and where to go. Please leave the exhibit with the attorney.
All right, move for the admission of 62.
Any objection? 62 is received. Are there other exhibits that need to be addressed?
25 plus 25 in a minute.
Yes.
We're waiting for some confirmation.
All right. Members of the jury, it's 4:30, so we're going to break for the day. In a moment, the bailiffs will take you out. I do have a few instructions for you before you leave. One, no discussion about this case with others, not amongst yourselves, not with the lawyers, not with the members of the public, not with the media. Do not talk about the case when you get home. I know it's going to be tough, but you have to decide this case only on the evidence presented at trial, and you cannot be influenced by others. Second instruction, no independent research or investigation. Do not go to the internet to look up things that you think may be helpful. Do not visit the site. Do not look at maps. Again, the attorneys have to present the evidence for you to decide here in the courtroom. Third, do not watch or read any media reports or social media posts about the trial. Frankly, you're getting a front row seat to this entire trial. Anything that you see on the internet could be misleading. The final instruction is come back tomorrow morning. We need you all at 8 o'clock before we can get started. The bailiff will give you new directions about the entrance. You're not going to come in the main door. There's a new door that you're going to come in. He will give you the instructions about where that door is. There's also special parking for you in the morning. Please use it so that you are segregated from the rest of the public. Please take.
Okay, so that was day 1. Defendant had 2 beers. Oh, wow. That's crazy. I think they have 5. They're already up to 5 days now, but I figured I would introduce y'all to it. And you can find it on Fox 9. I'm eating lunch, even though it's 4:30. But thank you guys for sticking with me for a little while. I'm sure I'll see you out there on YouTube.